are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller
I drove, which made me happier. I didn't let anybody else behind the wheel of the car.
and Moulton.
Look at you. I'm the man of the house.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you. Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton, on this final Thursday of August, 2 weeks away from the Chiefs and the Texans? And boy, do we need football now more than ever. Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Simulcasting on the 24/7 Landry Football Network, which is exclusive to Twitch TV as well. Mark, top of the morning to you, and how the heck are you?
You know, David, rested.
Me too.
Rested. Yes, David, but for the last 2 nights, you didn't have fire alarms going off in your house in the middle of the night.
No, I did not.
Yesterday was the end, or so we at least think, of Alarmgate.
So we're hopeful. We're doing the show with crossed fingers and crossed toes, are we?
Well, I think I figured out which smoke alarm it was, so that was removed from the equation.
Is there a hole?
No, I mean, there's some wires right now. I've got to replace the unit.
Okay.
But I took the one that I believe was the problem down, and since we've had no noise from the alarm system,
Right.
since I think I chose wisely.
Did you throw it in the pool to make sure? Because, you know,
Nope.
you just sometimes it's kind of like a snake, Mark. You know, you can cut the head off the snake and the thing still moves. I don't want you to, you know, sometimes these machines, you know, it just, you take the, I just don't trust it. Sometimes I might have thrown it in the pool to be sure. I might have fried the thing.
It's right here, David.
Okay.
Got it right with me.
All right. If you say so. Good luck. That's all I could say.
Do what we do.
Good luck.
We do what we do.
Well, since, you know, there wasn't nearly as much sports on the docket yesterday and last night as we thought there was going to be, I made an early night of it. I mean, once the Lightning, you know, I put the Bruins to bed, I was like, well, I can go to sleep.
Yeah, I stayed up for the first period of Av Stars.
Oh, wow.
Just because, well, I had myself set up to watch sports yesterday.
Right.
Mentally, I had put myself in and I had no interest in Orlando, Milwaukee. None. Was not going to watch a play unless I found out fourth quarter Orlando was in it, and then I might watch and see if they can extend it. But we all know even if they won the game, they were going to lose game 6, and this sucker's over. It was just really a matter of can they force them to play another game. They're not as good.
You know, we had Dante, the sideline reporter for the Orlando Magic, on the show 2 days ago, and he said, you know, we were just trying to extend this series to Friday. Well, as it turns out, the series will be extended to Friday. Maybe. I mean, we don't know. Did the NBA season end yesterday?
I think that it did, David.
I don't. But
and we can talk about this as long as you want today. We know we're not an NBA market, and I've got a pretty good idea how a lot of our audience thinks. But yesterday, if for some reason you don't know, the NBA, I think, had a bigger problem on their hands than we'll ever know. Because Orlando was on the court ready to play when Milwaukee decided that they were boycotting the game.
Right. But see, to me, Mark, that wasn't the story. Okay? That is a story. But if the players on the Milwaukee Bucks had decided not to play. There's also a player on Milwaukee who I believe was a victim of police brutality and actually received a six-figure settlement with the first digit being crooked because of it. And the incident in Kenosha is in Wisconsin, obviously. And where are the Milwaukee Bucks playing and representing? So when Milwaukee decided, plus also cynical person in me, they're up 3-1. It's Orlando. They're going to win this series. Honestly, I thought to myself, wow, they're going to forfeit this game to make a stand. Good. Okay. You know what? Part of me that was like, you know what? Good for you guys. You know what? Then you come back on Friday, you take them out in 6, and but you made your statement, and okay. It's what followed next that was, oh, snap. And not just what followed next in the NBA. I mean, I knew once it was going down in Orlando, I'm like, and I understand nobody pays attention to the WNBA, but I knew when it started to go down in Orlando, I'm like, well, they're not playing in Bradenton tonight. And I pay attention to that because our friend Nikki Collins, coach in Atlanta, and I knew she had a game last night. And it was going to be nationally televised. It was on the Deuce. And I'm like, well, that game's not happening. So then I knew, oh, okay, now it's like, oh, all right, where else is it going to go? Well, there were 3, then the Brewers go, we're not playing. So the Brewers.
That started to be out there shortly after the Bucks. You started seeing some stuff with the Brewers. And again, these are the 2 Wisconsin teams.
Right.
If the Bucks if the Bucks forfeit, and that's really at that time, I'm with you, David. I thought it was going to be a forfeit. I thought it was a one-off, that the Bucks were making a stand, and I went, okay.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of unrest in Wisconsin right now. The players are saying, you know what? We're not going to let the Milwaukee and Madison Evening News lead off, or sports lead off with sports stories. We're not going to give them that. We're going to be part of this. I understood it completely, David. Once Boston and Toronto, and again, Van Fleet, this shouldn't come as a huge surprise out of the Raptors kids. Van Fleet for 2 days said he didn't know whether or not he was going to play. And I believe personally he led the charge in Toronto to tell the rest of the Raptors that, hey, we ain't playing. Because if they played, David, then the NBA would have had to have forced a forfeit on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, you're talking about Toronto-Boston. That's scheduled game 1 today. All right. The next game was Houston OKC.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's when Westbrook and CP3 kind of got together and said, we ain't playing.
Right. And then it trickled down and Lakers and Blazers goes away. So then, all right, NBAs, which then becomes WNBA, which then becomes Brewers. Although actually we didn't know about the WNBA till 7:00. All right. But we figured it was going to happen. But in between NBA and WNBA, the Brewers say we're not going to play. So the Brewers-Reds game goes away. And then all of a sudden, once again, it leaves the state of Wisconsin. The Mariners voted, I think, unanimously not to play. Oh, okay. So San Diego-Seattle doesn't happen. Then we find out later on, Giants-Dodgers doesn't get played. Oh, okay. I was unaware of this until half an hour ago. 5 MLS matches didn't get played yesterday. Oh, all right. A tennis player, Naomi Osaka, former number 1 in the world, beat Serena to win a U.S. Open a couple years back. All right. She had advanced because tennis literally, I believe, has just resumed in the last week. And she's made it to the semifinals of a hard court event and is scheduled to play today. She announces last night, I ain't playing. And she happens to be one of the few people of color on the tour. And she announces, I ain't playing. Now, the tour does not award it. The tour says, well, okay, then we'll take Thursday off. And we'll give you a chance to show back up and play on Friday. Oh, okay. We had commented yesterday how the Lions as a group were like on Tuesday where we can't practice. And Matt Patricia and company said, well, okay.
Quick point there, David. As this all comes out, it's the first time the Lions have ever been a leader at anything in the history of their franchise. You really could say that the Lions' practice cancellation was the start of this, and it marks the first time in this or the last century that the Lions were a leader in anything.
And then yesterday, the Washington team, because I guess that's what we have to call them for the time being, the Washington NFL team, they opted not to practice. Now, they got a lot going on. I mean, they had a big scandal yesterday also, but it doesn't really impact the players on the field. It's more Daniel Snyder and whether or not he's going to remain owner and all that. So, this movement, these feelings crossed over. They left the state of Wisconsin. They crossed, and it left the NBA, which is the most socially active of all the pro sports leagues. And it made its way to baseball. It made its way to soccer. It made its way to tennis. And because of it, there were a few people that were watching yesterday wondering. Now, the Islanders-Flyers game had already started. Remember, the Milwaukee-Orlando NBA game is scheduled for 4. Flyers-Islanders began at 3. I mean, by the time that the Bucks walked off the court and the word got out that they're not going to play today, the Flyers were already up 3-0.
Yeah, they were just looking to blow that lead.
You're right.
They hadn't blown the lead and won in overtime yet.
And so, but then a lot transpires between 3-0 and Lightning Bruins at 8:00. And there was talk of, is the NHL going to play? Are the Lightning and the Bruins going to play? And then what would happen? And that's in Toronto. What would happen then in Edmonton between Colorado and Dallas? And the NHL decided that they would have a moment of reflection. 7 seconds. I'm guessing one for every shot, but 7-second moment of reflection. They condemned racism on the boards and all that, and they had a statement, and then they had a 7-second moment of reflection. But then the games were played. And there's a debate in the hockey world as to whether or not the NHL, handled it the proper way, or whether or not, as Kelly Rudy and a few others have said, that the NHL is always last to this party. Okay, have your debate. I got to admit, Mark, in the last 16 hours, 14 hours, I've had a few thoughts and emotions. I really have. And it's why I didn't take to Twitter at all. I let as much of it sink in as I could. I was exhausted, tried to get some rest. I got up early. And, like many of us, I would assume, I got a lot of things swirling in my big noggin.
I always struggle here because I have no problem having the conversation. I don't know what I add to the conversation in cases like this. I'm a 51-year-old white guy. I don't know what it is that I can offer other than to really listen. And given the fact that you're a 55-year-old white guy, we can have a lot of. What's that?
Now. 54. Take it easy now.
All right. I always like to put you
older
ahead of me.
Right.
Since I just hit one, I just added one to you.
I know. You're right. You want to feel better.
That's
I
all.
understand.
51, right. You're 4 years older. 55. I know it's not until December. That's on me. This is the purgatory time from August until December. But I apologize. But you're a 54-year-old white guy.
Right.
So we can listen, we can read, we can try to understand, but it's difficult, and even more so in the region where we live. It's not a knock on it, but we are just in an older, much more white area than most in the country. I think that's pretty fair to say. So it's a different spot to live in when something like this happens. I said I believe the NBA's done because from this standpoint, David, if they sit out one game, if their protest is one game, we all believe, and I even heard many of the NBA players, Chris Webber said, I don't think anything's going to happen right away. Don't know if anything happens, period. Sitting out one game isn't going to do anything. It will bring some conversation, like most things in our country. We'll be done with it in 24, 48 hours and we'll move on, particularly if they go back to playing. The money in the playoffs is pretty much for the owners, not the players. There's not a lot of reasons for most of these guys to play. Certainly not financially. Secondly, they've all been away from their families a while, and most of them have not liked the bubble. They've dealt with it. I think this is an opening. I think they have a legitimate reason in their minds now not to play. And coming back, at least from where I'm sitting, your one-day protest, that's it. I don't know what that does. And I don't know if that makes me a bad person for saying that, David, but I don't know missing one day what that does.
Well, I think it's already done something. One, we're talking about it. Two, a lot of people were talking about it yesterday, and they'll be talking about it again today, which when you think about what's going on in our world, it's the week of the Republican National Convention, and there's a major hurricane, which is bearing down right now on Louisiana and Texas. All right. So to even make, as we say, the A block of the evening news, which they did last night, that's significant. That's accomplished something. What do protests do, Mark? They, A, want to draw attention first, and the real big goal is to bring about change. But protests are to draw attention. Well, mission accomplished. They definitely drew attention. So it accomplished something. Now, is it going to bring about change? Is it going to win over hearts and minds? Well, that's for everyone individually to decide. All right. There's that part of this equation. The other part of the equation, though, I find fascinating, and no one may give a damn about. I kept thinking about Adam Silver yesterday. At what point, and I shouldn't go here, but I'm going to. All right. Adam Silver and Joe Biden have a similar problem right now. All right. Joe Biden is and Adam Silver are very sympathetic to the cause. At the same time, to accomplish the goals of the cause, they need things to return to order. They do. I'm sure Adam Silver is looking at LeBron going, you're not going to get what you want if you get on a plane and go back to LA. You have a better chance of getting the attention that you want for the issues that you want by staying in this bubble, no matter how miserable you are. All right? Never mind what it will do to this league as a whole and the financial damage, etc. And if we want to talk about that, we can. And I think that Joe Biden is in a similar spot in which he and his party and his ticket are very sympathetic to the cause. At the same point in time, okay, they would like to go about bringing about the necessary change in a more orderly way. But protests are not always orderly. They're not. Things sometimes, as much as you want to make it orderly, get out of control. It happens. And so I'm thinking about Adam Silver yesterday, and there was a time, Mark, between 4 and 6 o'clock in which my first thought was, well, I got to make this game a forfeit. This series, if I was Adam Silver, my first thought was, well, we got to give this game to Orlando. They showed up to play. The other team didn't. That's a forfeit. As cold as that sounds, that's a forfeit. And you could say, totally respect the Bucks players and the cause, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Okay? But I'm running a league here. I don't know what to tell you. It's a forfeit. Now, I softened as every hour went on, listened to a few people, thought about a few things. I am not equating this little personal reflection I'm going to have right now with yesterday. Okay? It's not equal at all. But you and I went through something 4 years ago. All right? We had a show. There were 3 people involved in the show. Out of nowhere, with no warning, they fired one of the three people. You and I were crushed because we knew it was not only that person being fired. We knew what it meant. We knew we were done. We knew now the clock was ticking.
Yep.
All the time and effort and everything. We knew it was over. And the firing happened a little over an hour before we were supposed to go on the air. And we both looked at the bosses and said, we can't entertain people for 4 hours today. You just ripped our souls out. We can't do it. And they threatened to fire us. And we just said, well, okay, but we'll have it in us tomorrow. We will suck it up and we will be back tomorrow, but we don't have it in us right now. I'm just telling you, we don't. And you and I went to the bar and drank for 5 hours. All right. And we thought we were going to be allowed to come back the next day. And, they gave us a day. And so as time was going on, I was thinking to myself, well, if I'm Adam Silver, you know what? Maybe I can look the other way here. I can, and it's 2 days. If now the teams that were scheduled to play on Thursday, they also want to protest and not play a game. Okay, maybe I can give them Thursday, but by Friday, we got to be playing basketball again. I don't know what to tell you. The world moves on, and we have to move on with it.
Yes,
we have to move on with it. So I'm very sympathetic to the cause. Very. Love a good protest. Billie Jean King said it a long time ago. That documentary about the U.S. women's national soccer team, and they were having problems in the 90s, and they were playing for absolute peanuts. And Billie Jean King just looked at them and said, hey, the only power you have is to not play. Okay? That's it. But it's the power, and you've got to be willing to use it. And if you do, trust me, you will get them to capitulate because they can't do what they need to do without you. And the U.S. women's national team in the mid-90s said, we're not going to the Olympics.
Okay, let's fast forward because that was a protest for the players to get more money.
Right.
If the players continue to sit out, the owners aren't getting money. The players aren't protesting for more money. They're protesting because they want justice. They want social reform. So what is it they can do by going back to, when they go back and play, they didn't get what they wanted.
Well, I'm
just so David,
well,
I'm sorry. That's why I think it's done. I think for the players to use what you're talking about, their power is to not play. And because it's not for money with the ownership, like it was in the case that you're referring to, going back releases their power. If they want to truly make the statement that they're making, they sit out the rest of the year. And I truly believe that.
And I think out of sight, out of mind. I think if they leave Orlando and they go to their respective home bases, that quite frankly, the national sports media will not follow them. They've got them all in one spot right now. They do. All right. And every single day, their message is getting out. They're not even answering questions about basketball. The reporters, Tim Reynolds of the AP spent 7 weeks there. He had to write about change in social justice. It's all they were talking about. So either he had to produce material and get paid, or he couldn't produce any material. They were getting their message out. I just think at some point, if you're running a league, you have to look at the players and go, hey, we can only do so much. I'd look right at them and go, well, what more do you want us to do to help your cause? We think we've gone pretty far. This isn't on us. This is on the rest of the country. Now, if you want to make this statement, hey, okay, I get it. I don't think it's going to help you get what you want sooner. I got to be honest, but hey, it's your right. It's your right. But I also don't know about the future of this league if you do it. And, it's a big decision. I respect what you guys did today. I could see Adam Silver saying that. I can. And if you need a couple days to regroup, all right, I get it. But at some point, at some point, we move forward.
And you're right. Everything. I can't disagree with much that you say. other than the out of sight, out of mind part. For most people in this world, you are 100% correct. But there is one thing the sports media loves in the United States of America today. That's the National Basketball Association and their players. They get more media for what they do than any other sport. Based on television ratings, households, their Q rating's a lot higher than that of baseball, and the numbers are very similar from a profit standpoint. In fact, baseball produces more money. So, David, the media loves the NBA.
It does.
And Twitter loves the NBA. LeBron James has, 47 million followers. Let's just say half of them are fake because that's about what the going rate is for someone of that rating. That's still 23, 24 million people that with the press of a button listen to everything he says, including all of your bosses at Fox and CBS because, well, that's where they gauge the interest of the world. So, out of sight, out of mind? Sure. But to me, not for an NBA athlete, and certainly not for an NBA star.
And listen, I get it. Hey, if this is bigger than basketball, I get it. I'm not dumb. All right. And movements are often bigger than the people in them. All right. So if this is going to be bigger, then it's going to be bigger. And I guess nothing's going to stop it. But I do think that there are many layers to this. You know, the league and the owners have been very supportive. Do they continue to be supportive, or do they draw the line in the sand at some point and go, listen, we can only do so much. We're better off doing it together than if you break away and you're on your own and we're on our own. I don't know. But, I mean, you got to think, like, you believe the season's over. I believe it's not. Mark, let's just say for sake of argument, you're representing the players right now, and I'm representing the league and the owners. Can we somehow, some way, it's either or. Either they're going to come back and play or they're not. You know, until I hear of a team or players getting on checking out of the hotel and heading to the Orlando airport, I do not believe the season is over. But these are fascinating times. I mean, we've never, there are many in the sports media, and there are many who, I don't know if romanticized, but, think about what took place in the 60s and Ali's activism and the stand at the 68 Olympics. And we haven't had anything like this in 50 years. I mean, we haven't. We haven't. And sports has been mixed in with politics and society for a lot over those 50 years, but not like it is now. This is fascinating. And the next 24 to 48 hours are monstrous. Monstrous in whatever direction it goes. My guess is in the other sports, it was a day or so of protest. And most of us who are not of color can't understand. Okay. Once again, as you said, we got to listen here. I mean, grown men are crying. Doc Rivers is crying. There's a player on the Mets last night who basically sobbed into the camera when the game was over. I mean, the pain that people of color are feeling and showing, is sobering. I mean, it really is for those of us who don't feel that because we haven't experienced and felt what they do. I mean, it is. It's the coldest shower I've ever seen. But what happens from here is remarkable and could be unprecedented.
Anyone's guess. It's really anyone's guess. That's the one thing that's for certain. I may be right. I may be wrong. You may be right. You may be wrong. We don't know right now. It is very much uncertain times, particularly with the NBA. The starting five on the other side. We have an absolutely terrific show lined up today. We're delivering. We're here. We're not taking the day off. David Sampson, 7 a.m. to talk about what's going on in the MLB, and particularly with this boycott. Keith Smith covers the NBA for Yahoo. We'll get knee-deep into what's going on there. Ed Reed, longtime news press, and now I love this title, Deputy Regional Sports Director for the USA Today. How the hell do you fit that on a business card?
Wow.
No kidding, right?
I do. Just to us, he's Ed Reed. We didn't realize he's such a big deal.
And he's actually Ed. You know, Ed Reed.
Yeah, right. He's a Hall of Fame safety.
Right. I mean, because it's a double name, like Tom Brady. He was just Ed Reed. I mean, we'll ask Ed Reed if he's always been referred to by his first and last name throughout his life. And Nathan Brown, who is the head football coach at Central Arkansas, they are playing the first college football game of the year against Austin Peay. They're also playing North Dakota State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one-off. This is the biggie. This is your Bison, David. This is the scout. Let the people in Fargo know that we've got this guy on the line. We will at least add 4 people to our Twitch account for that. Miller and Moulton, the starting 5, is on the other side. We'll break down Bison football at 8:30 right here. Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
You can't watch baseball while driving.
Breaking down the Bison.
Fishing, golfing, or while doing anything else you like to do while on the go. And this year, you can't even watch baseball in a ballpark, but you can see the game on the radio. Where stands so still at the plate when the Marlins play the pitch. Get the play-by-play. I want to play on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, home for Miami Marlins baseball.
Do we just simply ask, do you support well, hold on. Just hear me out. Do you support the professional athletes? Because it was in numerous sports. Do you support the professional athletes boycott on
certified pre-owned vehicles? All new Jeep Gladiator Overland lease.
All right.
On Wednesday?
Yes, one day is enough, though. Or yes, complete support, whatever they want to do. Yes, but they need to get back playing. No, I do not.
Yes. Yes. 1, yes, 100% support. 2, yes, okay, for 1 to 2 days. All right. 3, no.
Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly, 10,000 miles per year, $32.94 due at time, plus tax, title, zero security deposit, $13.88 per 1,000 borrowed for 72 months at 0% APR with 0 down with lender approval. Offers don't combine.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year.
Do you support the boycotts yesterday by the NBA, WNBA?
Well, just say professional athlete. It'd make it easier on yourself.
Oh, I've already got it all hashtagged up.
Oh, okay. All
NBA,
right.
WNBA, MLB, and MLS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll never stop on the water. Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring. That's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com.
Yes, for a couple of days or 1 to 2 days.
1 to 2 days. Or 48 hours.
Owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing. Call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health.
Tucker must have been on his game yesterday because when Fire Tucker Carlson's trending, he must have had a hell of a show.
Then testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men
Do you want to play that clip?
is a greatly improved mood.
Yes or no?
It's 5.5 minutes.
Oh, well, can't play that. I was just.
I didn't listen to it to be able to edit it to what anything that's.
Gotcha. All right.
Can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com.
Weber's is not that long. Weber's is only,
It's like 3 minutes.
yeah, it's 3 minutes. I mean, David, I don't think we have the time today to get into that. We've got four really good guests.
And we'll have a lot of comments.
Segments. I mean, you know what I mean? We've got the throwaway segments that we do that we don't really have to, but they're part of the show. So that basically leaves us 7 and 6:45.
Right. No, I know.
No,
We'll have a lot of comments to read.
Right.
Also.
I'm with you.
You're live.
"24 minutes before the hour, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Some good, lighthearted sports talk this morning on Miller and Moulton. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels, simulcast these days on the Landry Football Network, a 24/7 football channel exclusively to Twitch.tv. Couple of ways you can chime in our chat rooms, whether it be YouTube or Twitch.tv or the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551, 239-479-5551. There is some good news this morning. Hurricane, is it Laura?
Yes.
Apparently losing a little bit of steam. It had been building. It had reached Category 4 status. Apparently, Laura now down to Category 3. I think, approaching landfall, that sort of deal. So,
made landfall.
Yeah, it's as we know, our thoughts. I hate this expression because it's thrown out there too casually now, but it's, I reached out to a few people that I know in Eastern Texas and in Louisiana. Looks like Tim Brando, who's in Shreveport, which is the northwest part of the state, and it's going to make a beeline for him and probably reach him at about 100 to 110 miles an hour. So, thoughts, prayers, somehow, some way, this could turn out better than forecasted. 22 minutes before the hour. Time now for
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting Five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
And the starting five for just a couple more days, brought to you by the Lizard Lounge.
Where was the Lizard Lounge, Mark?
Mockley Road, I believe.
It all started with the Milwaukee Bucks scheduled to play Game 5 of their first-round playoff series with the Orlando Magic at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We were carrying it live when the Bucks never showed up on the court. And then the Magic, shortly before tip, walked off the court. And turns out the Bucks said they're not going to play. And just like that, the Bucks-Magic game was canceled, which shortly thereafter led to the rest of the NBA slate being canceled, in which the league and the Players Association came to an agreement within an hour and released a joint statement. 2 hours later, the WNBA players all showed up at the same court at the same time. They spelled out Jacob Blake's name on their shirts, and they knelt in protest, and then they all walked off and said, we're not playing. 5 MLS matches were canceled last night. 3 Major League Baseball games did not take place to protest racial injustice. The Brewers were the first to say we're not playing, so their game against the Reds didn't happen. Then Seattle and San Diego was called off, and then Giants-Dodgers got called off. Now, the Astros-Angels game had already been postponed, but that's because the game was scheduled for Houston, and they wanted the Angels to be able to get out of town with the hurricane coming. The Washington NFL team did not practice yesterday, and Naomi Osaka, one of the top women's tennis players, announced she's not going to play her semifinal match in protest. What's interesting about that, the match isn't scheduled till later today. And the tournament said, oh, well, okay, we'll give you a day. We'll move it back to Friday. We'll see if you show up then. So that's all that got canceled yesterday in the name of racial injustice and the protesting of Jacob Blake being shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The NHL did play I think in large part because the Islanders-Flyers game had already started, and it was 3-0 Flyers at the moment that the Milwaukee Bucks decided not to take the court.
And remember that, I'm going through the text here because there's a lot of messages and we're getting started, and I always kind of run a little bit behind getting the show ready and not worrying about the text lines. Someone said, well, if the Bucks didn't take the floor, that's a forfeit. Well, it could have been. I mean, we've got the audio from we carried the Magic games. The Magic pregame was unusual to say the very least. We have the audio. It's about 8 minutes, and I didn't have time to edit down the proper 20 seconds of this because it's tough to pick out which seconds they were. But as the guy's talking at the beginning, he goes, well, the Magic, we're getting ready, or so we think, because, well, the Bucks haven't entered the court yet.
And there's word that they may not play, et cetera. And so it played out in real time, and it played out, don't know if you heard it, right here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. The Flyers blew that 3-0 lead, only to win in overtime, 4-3 over the Islanders to even their series at a game apiece. Meanwhile, back-to-backs, and Tampa Bay took advantage of it. They win in overtime Tuesday night, and they shellacked the Bruins Wednesday night 7-1 to take a 2-1 lead in that series. And there are a great many people in hockey that think the winner of this series is going to hoist Lord Stanley. Colorado, meanwhile, got up off the deck down 2-0 against Dallas, and they beat the Stars 6-4. The NHL obviously played, albeit with a 7-second moment of reflection before the last two games.
At least, as this texter points out, 5 of the 6 teams played. The Bruins also joined
That's
the
true.
protest last night.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. The rest of Major League Baseball went on, despite the 4 games that were postponed, 3 because of social protests. Great day for the Rays yesterday. They beat the Orioles 4-3, while the Yankees lost a doubleheader to the Braves. Atlanta beat Garrett Cole 5-1 in the opener. Cole had not lost the last 28 times he had stepped on the mound. He had won his last 20 decisions. A rookie, Ian Anderson, making his major league debut, no-hit the Yankees into the 6th in the 5-1 win, and then the Braves won the nightcap 2-1. So, Mark, the Rays now have a 2.5-game lead in the AL East. 2.5 games. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Toronto beat Boston 9-1. Indians took 2 of 3.
Wait a minute, the Red Sox lost?
Yeah, and gave up a bunch of runs.
Wow.
9-1. Indians double up the Twins 6-3. They took 2 of 3 in this series. The Indians are a half a game back, as are the White Sox, who beat the Pirates 10-3. Cubs lost to the Tigers 7-6. Mets over the Marlins 5-4. Phillies 3-2 over Washington. Cardinals, the 6-5 winner over the Royals. Oakland 3-1 over Texas. Colorado 8-7 over Arizona. The reason we're having Ed Reed, who's got this really big USA Today title now, I mean, we just know him as...
Can I give you that again?
Yeah, Ed Reed will be joining us at 8 o'clock to talk about the next story.
I really want people to watch this on Twitch because we put their name. I'm really just going to put his title up on Twitch. He is the Deputy Regional Sports Director for the USA Today, the News Press, and the Naples Daily News. That is his full title.
Ed, we love you.
Paragraph.
Whatever. I mean, honestly. I mean, you don't really have that on your business card, do you? But the reason we're having Ed Reed on at 8 o'clock is because he's following the Mackenzie Alexander story. So Mackenzie Alexander leaves Bengals training camp on Tuesday because he finds out his father has gone missing. He flies back home to Southwest Florida, and he goes searching for his dad. Now, his dad went picking berries with a guy. Well, Mackenzie...
That's what his father, that's what his family has always done.
Right.
Haitian descent, and if you read through the articles, that's many of a grandparent and parent who, despite what their kids may be, this is what I do. I get up in the morning, it's my job.
And so Mackenzie Alexander's dad went with another gentleman to go pick berries. Well, dad's been missing since, and the other gentleman apparently left. And so Mackenzie Alexander and someone else confronted this gentleman and proceeded to get arrested late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, charged with 1 count of battery. Right. Charged with 1 count of battery. And so we're going to have Ed Reed on a little over an hour to talk about that. The NC State Virginia Tech game was scheduled for Saturday, September 12th. It's been pushed back 2 weeks now to September 26th because of COVID. So, worth noting that, the number of cases. Certain teams, USC, even though they're not playing, they had to stop workouts because they've got too much COVID on campus. There are a couple of other schools right now. So there are still many that are worried that the college football season is not going to be able to kick off when scheduled. Phil Mickelson ends up shooting a 5 under 66 yesterday. He was 4 under through his first 4 holes. If there was any doubt, this sucker was over. He won the Ozarks National Tournament on the Champions Tour by 4, winning his Champions Tour debut with the scores of 61, 64, 66. He shot 22 under. This could be Phil's last tournament before the U.S. Open. There is an event scheduled the week before the U.S. Open, but it's in Napa, and they're worried that because of fires that it's not going to happen, or it's in Napa, Nevada, or something like that. But they're still worried. So Phil, a winner on the Champions Tour, and he did say it was great being out here. I don't know when I'll be back.
I love it. He sent out a couple of tweets. One before the round said, started my warm up before my final round. Saw the video of me chomping gum and looking like a giraffe in spring. Not attractive at all, but it helps me release the nervous energy and access my frontal lobe. Which also the CBD apparently helps you as well, Phil. But the one after the tournament was better. 24 birdies and an eagle, pitcher with the trophy. I'm taking this one home with me. 24 birdies and an eagle. Phil likes the senior tour.
Well, I guess the 4th hole was about a 340 or 350 yard par 4. Phil drove it, and the rest of the guys were basically like, "All right, enough. Get them out of here, okay? Just go back. Go.
What do you want out of me?
Go back to the other tour, okay? Give me a break." As he went birdie, par, eagle to start his round, and he started with a 3-shot lead. So Phil a winner on the Champions Tour, and that mark at 13 minutes before the hour is
the starting 5. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting 5. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Miller and Moulton will recap yesterday's poll results and have today's poll question, which is pretty simple and straightforward, albeit not lighthearted. Coming at you next. David Sampson at the top of the hour to talk baseball and the boycott and a whole lot more. A jam-packed show for you the rest of the way. Thanks for waking up with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
I'm not here to overly protect, but I do think you're letting the guy who has less talent dictate. And that's the problem I have with the Clippers. It's like when you have a goon in hockey.
But it never goes away. I mean, Draymond is on it. There's a Draymond on every title team. Marcus Smart.
Yeah, but Draymond Green's going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done.
Dan Patrick.
Draymond Green's going to be a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
What?
West Florida's Fox.
What did he just say?
FM.com.
Draymond Green is going to be a Hall of Famer?
That's what he said.
No way.
What we did is we took our family business, we hired great talent.
No way.
Staff and developed our product.
I'll take the bet.
After 17 years, My Shower Door has frameless shower door showroom with our newest in Cape Coral. If you're looking for a frameless shower door company that you can trust and research, and you want to see more, go to myshowerdoor.com.
The new $3 hotcake breakfast sandwich from Hardee's knows just how you like it. Your sausage, sizzling, and your eggs, fluffy. A full breakfast nestled between 2 sweet hotcakes. At only $3, the new hotcake breakfast sandwich is almost too good to be true. Wake up, you're happy with the new hotcake breakfast sandwich. Part of the 2-3 more breakfast menu at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Offer valid for a limited time during regular breakfast hours at participating Hardee's restaurants. Tax not included. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the pool doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool a pain to operate? Automation is the answer. Use your phone to turn on your spa, and it'll be warm when you get home. Free on-site evaluations. We're a family company, And for over 40 years, we've been doing business right.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239-574-1133. State certified CPC 057088.
Twitter. Follow Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio on Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow us at Fox Sports SWFL.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota subcompact and compact tractors. Our reliable #1 selling tractors are designed for easy operation and feature all the performance-matched attachments needed to tackle any job. Right now, get 0 down at 0% APR for 84 months and save up to $1,700 plus no payments for 90 days. Now through October 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
This is Brian Creel from Creel Tractor. Visit us online at CreelTractor.com. Creel Tractor since 1972.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Drew Barrymore. I have a new daytime show premiering this fall, and we are going to explore all sorts of things together. We can share.
But there's been a million marches.
Be a little naughty.
Weber's 2 minutes, 8 seconds.
Cry again, and then laugh, and then maybe cry again.
For the record, just because I happen to just come upon it.
Do this. Who's with me?
The Drew Barrymore Show, coming to daytime.
I can't hear you.
Drew Barrymore.
God, I had a big announcement on the show today.
Has a little blue pill let you down?
Can it wait till tomorrow?
It's going to have to.
Guys, if you're
Can't announce that I'm going live with the draft on Twitch and letting the listeners pick my team. Gives me 24 hours to try to con you into being the moderator of this fiasco.
When is this fiasco taking place?
Wednesday.
They're generally no problem. We know that hearing we can try again next weekend is tough.
Wednesday night?
Wow.
6 this year.
Men'sClinic.com have helped thousands of men just like you, and thousands more nationally. We can make one simple guarantee, and we do. See our licensed medical staff. If we can't show you positive results doing that first,
Arch, take a kicker in the second round.
That's not funny, Arch.
What are you, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Hello.
I'm gonna call 239-307.
I need to get it sponsored, though. That's the only reason I wanted to announce it. I want to make, I want this to be a money-making proposition for everybody.
Don't we all?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you make a dadgum good point.
You're live.
Seven minutes before the hour, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live, Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. They are free. Sign up for them. We would appreciate it. You can even become a subscriber to our twitch.tv channel. Many comment already in the Twitch chat room, but we've got some business to take care of first. Yesterday's poll question and then today's poll question. How did things work out yesterday, Mark?
Yesterday, the poll question was, you just got me there because I wasn't ready. What would you most want to see live at a baseball game? We had three choices: a bench clearing brawl, walk-off home run, or a no-hitter. And I'm very proud of our audience that only 13.5% voted for violence. I mean, I expected a bit more given the circumstances that we're all going through these days, that you may have just said, F it, I want to hear a bench clearing brawl. And a lot of you typed in some very eloquent text and tweets in which you wanted a no-hitter going to the ninth, in which a walk-off home run would win the game, which would ensue a brawl as someone crossed home plate.
Wow.
You really tried to get all three in there, and I love you for it. I love you for the 1-0 one-hit game in which the brawl happens as the guy scores on that. But today, well, we dig a little deeper, David.
Yes, we do, Mark. Yes, we do.
This is one of those poll questions that's necessary, but I'm not sure I want to read a lot of the answers, if you know what I mean, David, because with all of the boycotts yesterday, we jumped into the pool. Do you support the boycotts yesterday by the NBA, the WNBA, MLB, and the MLS? We give you three choices, however. Yes, 100%. Yes, but only for 48 hours. I need you playing by the weekend.
Right. We put a limit on it in which, okay, make your point, got it, but at some point, time to return to work.
And no.
And right now, no getting 45% of the vote, and the 55% is split up amongst 100% support, 38%, and 17% support of, I'll give you 48 hours. So the yes-no split is 55-45.
And then I would be I'll be interested to see if the no ends up over 50%.
I think what we have right now will basically be the vote. I think it'll be mid-40s for no. I think yes combined will win out close.
And, we got someone who responded, don't care. Hockey's more fun to watch.
Well, that would be a no then.
Then it's a no. Then you don't support.
Right. If you don't care, that's a
then
no.
You don't support. And that's fine. That's your choice. But we're not asking you if you watch the NBA, WNBA, MLS, or baseball. We are asking you if you support the protest yesterday. And if you don't care, that means you don't support the protest. And that's your opinion. That's why it's a question.
And also, hey, hockey's going to debate. They were last night, and they're going to debate it all day today. There's no guarantee today's hockey games happen either. Now, if I had to bet, I think they will, but there's no guarantee. There are quite a few people in the NHL that think the NHL made a mistake playing yesterday. So, we'll see whether or not that plays out today also.
And I am with you, David. I think that they will play. Remember that the Flyers and Islanders started an hour before Orlando and Milwaukee. If those were flip-flopped, if Orlando and Milwaukee played at 3 and the first hockey game was at 4, I don't know if there would have been hockey yesterday because the pressure would have been that much greater on the NHL to then suspend the day's action.
David Sampson, former Marlins president, next.
I'm Dr. Jonathan France. See your future in 2020. We know that weakened vision can limit our ability to enjoy day-to-day activities. And with the clear advantage of the Panoptix lens, seeing without glasses for distance driving, computers, and reading is now possible. This is the first and only trifocal lens that is designed to be used to help people get 20/20 distance, near, and in between. Most importantly, I've been doing cataract surgery for over 30 years.
Does that work, David?
Trust me when I say this to you, experience quality.
I can't get rid of the rest of the crap on there.
Oh, I just think we'll ask our Twitch audience. Guys, does that work?
Member of my own
and gals?
You deserve to see your future in 2020.
And the problem is that I can't put it on a full screen like slideshow and get it to work.
I think we have to decide, does that work? Or do you just want to have the two of us and then that blue bar be, voice of David Sampson
in their studios.
Right.
Southwest Florida Sports Talk delivered to your speaker. This is easy. Just say, Alexa, play Fox Sports FM.
Well, Steve in Florida, here's what's interesting, because I actually thought about that. But if both teams sit out, what do you do? I mean, like with Houston and OKC sitting out yesterday, do you give them both a loss and now their 2-2 series becomes 3-3? I mean, honestly, this is crazy since they're all playing in a bubble, but there are teams that are quote unquote the home teams. Okay. Like Milwaukee. See, to me, if you were going to award forfeits, like to me, you would have awarded Orlando the game. Milwaukee decided not to play. Now, Orlando went along with it, but at first Milwaukee said, we're not playing. If you're going to go that route, to me, Milwaukee forfeited. But what do you do in the second and third game? What do you do? Do you award the home teams the forfeit? Houston and the Lakers take the loss? If you give them both a loss, well, then the Lakers-Portland series is over because now 3-1 becomes 4-2. So.
Good morning.
David, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We are doing well.
What time did you record your podcast yesterday?
Before the Bucks had walked out.
Gotcha.
So it was earlier in the day because the Bucks did it later.
Okay.
But I didn't do a bonus. I was going to go on, but I knew things were going to change overnight. So the entire show today is devoted to what the hell happened and what happens next.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for making time for us as always. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Certainly a lot to discuss.
Oh, wow.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
How the heck are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller
I drove, which made me happier. I didn't let anybody else behind the wheel of the car.
and Moulton.
Look at you. I'm the man of the house.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
And as we approach a couple minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you, how the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream the show at millerandmoulton.com, and we're broadcasting live many places, including the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. It's a pleasure to welcome back one of our best guests. We've had many people comment they feel smarter when David Sampson joins us. Former president of the Marlins, he covers baseball for CBS Sports now, and he hosts a terrific daily podcast called Nothing Personal. Nothing Personal. You can follow David on Twitter at David P. Sampson, David the letter P. Sampson. David, hope all is well still with you and your family. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you so much. It's good to speak to you guys this morning.
Have you, during your baseball career, was there ever a protest game that you were involved in? Did you ever show up at the park and your team or the other team? Are you ever part of a situation in which one of the two teams said, we're not playing today?
No, not that. The closest we came was back in the days of Zika, when we were due to go to Puerto Rico, and players said that they were not comfortable going, did not want to go. And we had a team meeting, management along with players, where we tried to educate the players about the risks of Zika, what was real, what wasn't real. And then we let the players decide what they were comfortable with. And they decided as a team led by Craig Breslow at the time, Ivy League educated player who talked about the risks of Zika. And we called Major League Baseball and said that our players will not go to Puerto Rico.
David, I'm curious. I know, yesterday was the NBA, but you've worked in the front office. You've got more expertise at this than any of us do. From the standpoint, after the first game yesterday, if games would have been played, would they have forced Milwaukee to forfeit? What are forfeit rules in baseball if both teams wanted to sit out? If the commissioner wanted to get authoritative, we don't think Silver's going to, but just help us from a baseball standpoint. How would it work out from the rules of who wins and who loses if they wanted to play hardball, if you know what I mean?
So in theory, if the Cincinnati Reds had not agreed with what the Brewers did, the Brewers would have forfeit the game and lost the game 9-0 would be the rules, actually. But what happened was that it's not just the Brewers who decided not to play, but the Reds as well. So really what that was yesterday in Milwaukee was a strike. It was not a boycott of the Brewers-Reds games. It's the Brewers and the Reds, as members of the union, basically walked out. And so I've been using a different word that isn't very popular, but it is true to describe what took place. And that is a strike, not a boycott. I do not think the commissioner under any scenario would walk in and enforce a forfeit, especially with both teams not playing. If one team had chosen not to play, that would have given the commissioner an opportunity to cause a forfeit, but I still don't think he would have done it because of the situation surrounding the walkout.
How long do you think any commissioner can essentially give the control to the players and let them dictate how things are going to go? Do you think there's a point in time, 24 hours, 48 hours, in which any commissioner says, hey, I get it, okay, and I may even agree with you, but we got to play?
So that is the question of the day, and I think that is a league-by-league question. So let's start with the NHL, where they said everybody's playing, and all the players agreed they were all playing. They had a moment of reflection, and the games went on. Then in baseball, you had a situation where you had 3 games not take place. And in a normal season, quotes around normal because of COVID, you would say when a game gets postponed, it's noteworthy. When you have to schedule a doubleheader, players aren't happy playing a doubleheader. They're not happy losing an off day later in the season. But in a truncated season like this, where doubleheaders have become just like a Tuesday, where teams play 2 7-inning games, it's almost like every day there's somebody playing a doubleheader because of COVID or because of Hurricane Laura. Something happens. So I think that MLB standpoint is this. If you want to strike and not play one game, we'll reschedule it because it's been so easy to reschedule because teams have realized that they've got to play 30 games in 25 days or 20 games in 18 days, something that you wouldn't see during the course of a regular season. So I think in baseball, the teams who did not play yesterday, they've agreed to play doubleheaders today. So they move on, and that's the end of it, like nothing happened. For teams who did play yesterday and didn't have a chance because they didn't realize what was going on, there is the possibility they will choose not to play today, and then they will just miss a game and play a doubleheader, a rescheduled doubleheader. But then you go to the NBA, and you're talking about a full playoff shutdown where, as an example, baseball would not be thrilled if this were happening in October. There's no way basketball is happy that they lost these playoff games. The network TV partners are not happy. They understand. They're sympathetic, but there is a business to run. If the players in basketball decide today that they are striking for the rest of the playoffs, the commissioner will have a significant problem on his hands financially.
And David, help me here. And I know you don't know the exact basketball numbers, but the playoffs are more of a money grab for the owners, correct? I mean, the players get a share. This isn't where they butter their bread, if you know what I mean. It's the regular season. So financially, there's not as much on the line for the players, is there?
Yeah, I disagree with that because it's based on, there's a salary cap in basketball, and that salary cap is based on, in part, league revenues. And if league revenues are down, that's going to have a quashing impact on the salary cap. And if you have a lower salary cap, guess what happens? Players' salaries go down.
We're talking with David Sampson, former president of the Marlins. He covers Major League Baseball for CBS Sports. He has a terrific daily podcast called Nothing Personal. Nothing Personal. You can follow him on Twitter at David P. Sampson. David, the letter P. Sampson. If a players' association or if a player in leadership in a players' association reached out to you and said, hey, what do you think we should do? What would you say?
Are you asking me in terms of before, in which sport? Let's start with that.
Well, okay, let's just pick any sport. We'll start with baseball.
So once the Bucks walked out and said they weren't going to play, the Brewers had no choice but to not play. They had to be sensitive to the moment and to what was going on in their community. The question is, when other teams follow suit and when players follow suit individually or as teams, what happened in baseball yesterday, it bothered me because it looked piecemeal to me. Players didn't know what was going on. There were meetings going on as pitchers were warming up. There were lineup changes as games were going to start. It didn't seem to me as though there was an organized approach, and it was very reactive to what happened when the Bucks decided not to play. It's all of a sudden then baseball players said, wait a minute, I guess we have to do something. I guess we need to do something. Should we do something? How do we make this matter? And so it all came together so quickly that I think it may have lost some of its impact. So if I had been approached, for example, with the Marlins as they were about to play the Mets in New York, interesting situation. It's a Derek Jeter owns the team, is a public face of the franchise, is a person of color. Mike Hill is the president of baseball operations, and he's African American. The question is, do they then say, we need to make a stand here too, or is there something else we can do? And what I would do as a team president, and knowing that I'm white, I would have to obviously be sensitive to this because I've not walked in a black person's shoes. So it's difficult to say that. I never would say that, but I'm there to be supportive. I'm there to say, what can I do to make you comfortable to play or to make you comfortable not to play? And once you make that decision, what can I do to make it so it matters? And I would then do more listening than talking, but then take action based on what players or executives who are in a position to educate me, what they say needs to be done. That's the position I would take.
Talking with David Sampson, CBS MLB analyst, former president of the Marlins. You can follow him on Twitter at David P. Sampson. And David, you got right to where I wanted to go, because you mentioned a couple of times, and speak to me from being a team president. You didn't protest yesterday. Your team now today says, we want to do something. This is so different because there are no fans. You're not sending anybody home. You're not canceling, fan tickets and having to refund that, which is all part of this. But is there anything, and I'm with you, you've got to just listen. But if they come today, is there any part of you as a team president that would say, are you sure you want to sit out today? Is it a day late? Is there something else we can do? Is there any fear that if teams in baseball decide we're all going to sit out today, teams not named the Brewers, and the same thing really with hockey. Hockey got pressed for not doing anything yesterday. Is there a little bit to being a day late and a dollar short if people protest today? Or how do you think that will work inside front offices?
Yeah, that is the perfect question. And so the answer is the day late and dollar short, I don't think applies to this, because the situation that we find ourselves in this country is not going to take care of itself in a day. And the awareness that is being raised, think about what's being talked about around the country right now. And bringing awareness is the first step, but then effectuating change is really what is the most important next step. So if I'm approached by the team the day after, which is today, I'm saying, listen, I think we should play. However, I think that we need to do something with the platform we have before the game, during the game, and after the game. So I would say, let's talk to the media the way the Bucks did and release a statement. Let's converse with our legislature here in Florida. Let's talk to our governor. Let's talk to the mayors. Let's think about how we can help educate and train to police so that they recognize brutality before it happens. So there's an opportunity to stop it. Let's talk about what we can do after the game that will last not just for this season, but for generations to come. But sitting out one game and then going on with our lives, I'm not sure that will have the impact that you all want and that we all need.
If Adam Silver called you, at what point, listen, he has given the players as big a platform as any league. And the league is behind the players and their calls for social justice, I think, as much as you can be. And I think that the league, it will grit their teeth but roll with the punches yesterday. But I think if it bleeds into today and tomorrow, I think that the people that Adam Silver answers to will lose their sense of humor. So if the players don't want to play, David, what can you do? You can't play this league going forward. It's a league of stars. They market their stars. If their star players don't want to play, let's face it, David, Major League Baseball and the National Football League, when there have been strikes, they have gone and found rosters and fielded them and played. I don't know that the NBA can do that. So is Silver powerless here?
Well, in this particular issue, you have to think about the fact that basketball, the reason why the players are taking such a lead is obviously it's such a predominantly African-American league. So when this is an African-American issue, except to me, it's not. To me, this is an issue of racism. And to me, I need to listen and understand how we can make things better. Adam Silver will follow the lead of the players because it's the right thing to do. And in his sport, it makes sense that they are the agents of change. They've got the best opportunity to actually change the course of this country. It's never happened. This has been going on for hundreds of years, but maybe 2020 is the year. Maybe yesterday was the beginning, even though we said it when George Floyd got murdered. We've said it 4 years ago in 2016. We keep saying maybe this is the day, but I'll say it again. Maybe yesterday was the day. Maybe that's the inflection point. And you're right. If the Stars don't play, that was an issue when they went into the bubble. Who will opt out? And in the NBA, you had a few people choose not to play, but everybody really was in there and they were playing. If you've got teams like the Lakers and Clippers who literally say we are leaving the Western Conference playoffs, I do not believe they can continue to play with two of their teams. It's not as though like the Major League Soccer bubble where a team got there, was sick, and then was sent home, but the tournament continued. The bubble continued. I don't think basketball will play if two teams decide to leave. That said, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it will be a unanimous decision that all teams will leave the bubble and start going to Congress and start going to their local state governments and start effectuating change, or all teams will stay and play. I don't think that it will be piecemeal, and that is the role that Adam Silver will play to guarantee that.
And where would you put your $20 right now? I mean, are those, because I tend to be with you, David, in that I think the season's over, because I think a one-day protest, while we're all talking about it, I think at this point, I think the players are going to leave the bubble. What do you think happens ultimately?
I think there's no games today, and I think that they return to play this weekend. I think it's a few days to breathe, and a few days to get their composure, and a few days to outline their action items and to start taking action. What the players have said is, we feel as though the focus should not be on basketball. We feel the focus should be on actual education and making change. And I think the league takes the time right now with the players together, like what the Bucks did yesterday when they were in their locker room when they didn't play. They actually spoke to the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin. They spoke to the attorney general of Wisconsin as they tried to figure out what they could do to make change. So there's been a lot of talk over the years and over the decades and over the centuries, and maybe this is when action starts. So I think that basketball can accomplish both. It can draw all of the attention to this issue, which is what they wanted. They can then start to take meaningful action that they can communicate to their fans and to the people around the country, and they can still get the rest of the games in so that their livelihood and that the sport can continue.
David, what's your podcast going to be about today?
You know, I was putting it together all through the night because it's a single issue podcast, and this will be the second one. Several months ago, I did an entire podcast after the murder of George Floyd and just talked about the platform that we all have and how to use that platform. And it's not just you and I who have platforms. Every single person in this country has a platform. Maybe more people access our platform when we talk, but whether you're at a dinner table or in a restaurant or on a piece of public transportation, or you have a show listened to by millions, we all have a platform. And I'm going to use mine today to explain to fans and listeners what took place, what I would do in this situation, and the good that has a chance to come. This is an inflection point for us and our society. And the question is, will we answer the door?
He's David Sampson, former president of the Marlins. He now covers and talks baseball for the CBS Sports family. He has a podcast every day called Nothing Personal. And you can follow David on Twitter at David, the letter P, Sampson, David P. Sampson. David, as always, very appreciative of your time. It's going to be a hardworking day. Have a good one.
Take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
David Sampson, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. If you're just joining us, for the record, and obviously we've been talking about this since the top of the show, Mark is of the belief that the NBA season is over. I am of the belief it's going to be a 48-hour, I called it protest. David Sampson may be more accurate, in which he says it's a strike. I think that the teams that were scheduled to play yesterday decided not to play. The teams that are scheduled to play today, because they don't do back-to-backs in the NBA playoffs, they are going to want to sit out a game also in protest. Then, in theory, Friday, the teams that were scheduled to play yesterday are scheduled now to play again. I believe they will play. However, if you follow Twitter and NBA Twitter, it was not, I don't believe, Mark, an official vote, but it was an informal vote. Team by team voted as to whether or not to continue playing. Reportedly, in the informal vote, both Los Angeles franchises voted to no longer play. That the Lakers and Clippers, informally, according to Woj, have said, we don't want to play. But the other teams remaining in the bubble, of which, the Pacers have been eliminated. So what do you have, 13 other teams right now? Because I think the Pacers are the only ones that have been eliminated, right? Or no, who else got swept?
Well,
so we're talking.
The Pacers are done.
Right. Anybody else get swept? Oh, Sixers. So we got 12 teams left. So we got 12 teams.
We've already moved to the next round. We were supposed to have Celtics Toronto starting here.
Right, starting today. But so we have 14 teams that are left in the playoffs. If the LA franchises have informally voted not to play, we have 12 other franchises who informally, they took a straw poll in the room, and the majority of players want to continue playing. It will be interesting is what David Sampson believes, that either they will be united as one and play, or united as one and not play.
And they are meeting this morning at 11 a.m. They had a meeting last night in the bubble, a players' meeting. And they are having another meeting, according to Woj, this morning at 11 a.m. It is coinciding with the timing of the NBA's Board of Governors call, according to sources that Woj is reporting.
Ed Reed will join us at the top of the hour to talk about the fascinating, disturbing, and hopefully not tragic Mackenzie Alexander story that has played out over the last 48 hours involving him and his dad. And Nathan Brown will join us in a little more than an hour because he's a college football coach and he's coaching as his team is playing this Saturday. The first game of the college football season involves Nathan Brown's Central Arkansas University. We will talk to him in a little more than an hour. But next, Keith Smith of Yahoo Sports and RealGM.com will join us to talk about the dominant story of the day, the NBA players boycott, protest, strike, whatever it is to you. Keith Smith, next. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
So Zion does not have a coach now. And David Griffin says this is the best job in the NBA. It is not, and here's why. It's actually an incredibly dangerous job. Because the expectations...
I know the demands are not with the owners.
...are way below.
But, boy, if you're the owners, at what point do you look at the players and go, listen, I can support you right up until this line, but if you cross this line...
I was
going to lose our support.
Yeah, you were still talking, but Heckle says the question is, do they have specific demands? Will this get the owners off their ass? This isn't about the owners.
What more could it?
That's why this to me is like this isn't a strike against the owners.
I mean, Heckle, what more could the owners do?
Heckle's not saying anything bad. I mean, if you read through it, Heckle just makes what's their list, and I thought that's what David Sampson said. This is the one thing about this. Go back to everything when this started in Atlanta, and that rapper Killer Mike got up there and talked about mobilizing, organizing. Well, we're protesting. We've not moved to phase 2 yet. We've had a few things where, I will say LeBron's thing about wanting to use the arenas to register to vote and those things, that's organizing. But it's still individual. We're just protesting. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, David. But the next step is to organize. And that's what has to happen.
Well, Hops, they will have a list of demands. The thing is, I just don't see, as Mark just pointed out, where any of the list of demands involves the owners.
None.
Except maybe what you just alluded to, LeBron said, because most of the owners own the arenas they play in. All right. I think all of them may, in fact, do. So
or at least have the management rights of it.
Right. And so you can say to them, hey, from this point forward, on election day, can you turn your arenas into a voting place?
Yeah, we're never having games on the first Tuesday in November, every 4 years. That's a dark day. Hockey, basketball, we're using that's legit. That's actually a real demand, David.
And I think the owners would go, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Well, it's easy for them.
Yeah, okay.
They look good, entices them to more fans, of color. Absolutely. Sure. It's actually an easy demand.
Again, mymansclinic.com.
Pool need a checkup? Call the doctor, the pool doctor.
Hi, Dr. Mark here. Is your pool up?
And the NBA actually, Heckle, has more owners that are at least down with the cause, if you know what I mean. You don't see an NFL owner speaking the way Mark Cuban does, if you know what I mean.
Don't see a whole lot of NBA owners speaking like Mark Cuban either.
No, but Ballmer, to an extent, is out there. Yeah. There's a handful of them that are out there, David.
Right. No, it's true.
None in the other sports.
Well, it is true. I mean, you have seen NBA owners actually take to Twitter to defend the players.
Right. I mean, we inside of a minute now?
I don't think so.
1.5.
Perfect. Okay.
You want to
65 days a year.
I'll need 30 seconds off the top to give out our poll question, if that's okay.
No.
Call 239 for more information or visit Towboat US.
Okay, how many times are you going to tell me that it's a person and it's not? He keeps. There we go.
Shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing.
See, look at that. 2-shot right there to the 3-shot. Look at that.
Wow.
Whoa.
Look at that. Look. Whoa.
Google DRM Roofing or call 239-232.
That's a director who's got the switch thing there, and you're just.
All right, I'm going to call now.
Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
28 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us on this final Thursday in August of 2020. We are Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream this show every day at millerandmoulton.com. That's also where you can go if you miss any part of the show to download our daily podcast. It's also where you can go to vote on our poll question every day, which today is, do you support the boycotts yesterday by the NBA, WNBA, Major League Baseball, and MLS? Because it was not just the NBA games that did not take place yesterday. 3 WNBA playoff game or regular season games did not play yesterday. 3 Major League Baseball games did not take place yesterday in protest, and 5 MLS matches yesterday also did not take place in protest. The answers are yes, 100%, yes for about 48 hours, and no. And right now, no has about 46% of the vote, and the 54% is divvied up amongst the 2 yes answers. Keith Smith covers the NBA for Yahoo and RealGM.com. RealGM.com. You can follow Keith on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, good morning. Hope all is well with you and your family. How are you?
Doing as well as can be expected right now. Just hanging in there, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Well, Keith, obviously yesterday was an unprecedented day in the NBA. It started with the Magic on the court. The Bucks don't come out for warm-ups, and we end up canceling the whole day. Where do you think we go from here?
Well, what we're going to have happen a little bit later this morning is players are going to meet again. They did not leave their meeting last night after spending about 2.5 hours together with players and coaches, and then the coaches were asked to leave, and it was just the players for a little bit. They didn't leave there with any real decisions made, and no 100% consensus or anything, which is a little unfair to expect from roughly 200 or so guys in a 2-hour session. So what they're going to do is they're going to meet again this morning. The NBA Board of Governors, so that's the owners, called a special meeting for later this morning as well. They're going to meet roughly at the same time. And I think out of there, what we're going to come out with is no one's going to play today. I don't think any of the players are in the right frame of mind to play today, is what it's seeming like and hearing last night and then this morning. But I think you're going to see them ask for some actions to be taken by owners to see what they can do to actually, provide, more help. And then we'll go forward from there.
Keith, do you get any sense, though, that Adam Silver and the owners are about to lose their sense of humor? That they've been pretty supportive of the players, and they're very supportive of the cause, and not just privately, but publicly. But at some point, this is an $8 billion annual business. I mean, do you think Silver and or the owners are getting close to saying, okay, I understand and I may even support you, but to a point, enough's enough?
I don't get that sense at all. The sense I'm getting more is a sense of, okay, well, tell us what you want, not just, generalities of we need more support, we need, pushing. I think there is a sense of we need to know what you actually want and need us to do, so that way we can start to provide that help. Because it can't just be money, because as you said, that is already in place. There's $300 million that's going to be given by NBA owners and teams towards various funds and the like. So they're not. It's not going to be just that. It's give details. Tell us exactly what it is you want us to do, so that way we can really start pushing forward to help you. So I think that is going to be an interesting thing now coming out today. Is I think on both sides it's going to be, well, what is it that you want, so that way we can move this thing forward the best way and clearly complete our season and get the most maximum financial benefit possible.
Well, there is no league that does more to support its players than the NBA. So Keith, what are the demands? One of the things we thought is, LeBron kind of made that push for arenas to be used on voting day. But outside of that, what are the players' demands of the owners? I get what the players' demands are of society, but the owners can't help them there completely. I'm sure there's some that they can do, but what is it that you hear that they want from the owners?
I think that's the issue right there, is saying that the owners can't help them. Well, I think what the players are looking at is, in some cases, these owners are billionaires. If not, they're very, very wealthy millionaires. And what they want them to do is exert political pressure on the various political figures, the elected officials, to make real change. I think what the players are finally hit the point of is money is not going to solve all these issues. And I think we all know that. What is real pressure on those policymakers, lawmakers that can do that. I think they are looking at this as an election cycle. We have an election in just a couple months. And I think the players are starting to realize, all right, some of these owners could really help by putting real pressure on some of the politicians who make these decisions towards making actual, real, sustainable changes. And that's what they're pushing for. That was a big part of what the Bucks did yesterday. Part of why they didn't want to play was they wanted to work with the governor, and they ended up talking to the assistant governor, which is, I think in the amount of time given, that's pretty good work there, and the attorney general to say, the attorney general of the state of Wisconsin was to say, we need to this starts here at home for us in Milwaukee. What are we doing here? And then you saw immediately, now they're going to do some talking and meeting to talk about, all right, what changes do we need to make to the way we do things? And that's what they're really looking for, is they need allies at the very top of the top, because the players, as powerful as they are in the world of basketball, they don't have that kind of power with politicians and the like. We've seen that over and over again. So they need the owners to help them with those powerful policymakers and lawmakers to affect real change.
He's Keith Smith, and he covers the NBA for Yahoo and for RealGM.com. RealGM.com. You can follow Keith on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, Doc Rivers said something a couple days ago, and it was not just what he said, it was how he said it. Doc Rivers is a grown man. Doc Rivers has had a pretty good life. And when Doc Rivers was tearfully saying, why is it that we keep loving this country and our country doesn't love us back? There's been a lot said in these last 4 months. That one stopped me in my tracks. I mean, to make a grown man cry, to care passionately enough about something to cry, but then to utter those words. I mean, I don't know how many of us think our country does not love us back. And when he said those words, I was like, wow, damn. Has anybody said something to you, or you heard them say it and it stopped you in your tracks, in which you went, oh, wow, now I understand this from your perspective a little bit more?
Yeah, a lot over the last few months, but that's certainly a very good recent call out. I was in the same exact position, and I covered Doc's time with the Celtics very closely, and got to know he doesn't say things just to say things. He's not that kind of person. He's very plain spoken. He, will speak very emotionally. He is an emotional person, but it's always from a place of, trying to, it can convey what he really feels. It's not contrived at all. And I think when he says that, as the son of a police officer as well, I think, he has repeatedly over and over spoke about his respect and admiration for the things that police officers go through that a lot of people maybe don't realize. But I think, he's hit a point where, quite frankly, many of us have, is enough is enough. This can't continue to go the way it is. And then yesterday, when Robert Horry was on TV out in California, a former NBA player, one of the things he said was, he talked about how he tells his kids, just lay down on the ground. Even if they beat and kick and break your bones, at least you're going to come home to me. And that is something that's not the world I live in. That's not a conversation I'm going to have with our child ever. I can't imagine. And now those are the things that I realize, this is not my world, and it's time for me to, really listen more than it is to do, anything else, and then start to find out how is it that I can help.
Keith, if you were to handicap the NBA season continuing right now, what would the odds be of this being the last NBA, 2 days ago, rather, being the last day that we saw NBA basketball for the 2020 season? Where would you put the odds right now?
I'm not real good at setting odds, but what I'll say is, I think it's highly likely that the season continues. I don't think we're going to see any games today. The players, for the most part, from what I have heard, want to play. They want to finish the season. They see it also as, if they leave the bubble and don't finish the season, they lose some of their platform, because then they're spread all over the country, and there's not necessarily going to be TV cameras in their face after every single game. It's going to be hard. I think you're going to see them amp up the messaging more as they come out of this. I think part of what they've asked for is, they want some, instead of it being, hey, so in the third quarter, you guys really fell apart rebounding wise. What happened there? They understand that there's a job to be done, and that there's a partnership with the media on those things, but they also want to have some time focused and effort focused on, let's talk about the issues. Let's, have a difficult conversation. And that's, I think, something that's going to come out of this. The only way I think we don't see the season continue is if the NBA owners do say, like there's nothing more we can do. There's nothing more we're going to do. Then I think, we're going to see this whole thing crumble, and we won't see the finish to the year. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the owners realize, if for no other reason, there's a lot of financial motivation on all sides to complete this season. And I think, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's going to really push things forward for a lot of people.
So you think that at the end of the day, the players will still be just calculated enough, if you know what I mean? Because there was a part of me yesterday when this was unfolding in which I thought to myself, this is we all react emotionally to things. We all have said and done things in our lives or in our careers in which we went, damn, I needed to keep my composure. I needed to not go that far down the road that I did. Okay. But there was a part of me yesterday that thought, this season may just go away, consequences be damned. You think that they will stop just short of that?
I think there is the potential that happens. I think, if they don't get any more of the support that they're looking for, then I think absolutely they will say, let's move along. I think one of the challenges here is the average person looks at an NBA player and says, oh, they're all millionaires. They're all living in, 20-room mansions and, these kind of things. And that's really not the case. There are guys, when this whole thing was being talked about months and months ago of a restart of a season, I had a player tell me, this is probably going to be my only year in the NBA. He doesn't make even $1 million. Now, he makes more money than I'm ever going to make in a single year, but that's not enough for him to live on. And his feeling was, I want every dime I can get. So yeah, if we can play, I want to play. And that's, a sentiment that's shared by a lot. So I think you're going to have a hard time convincing, all of those guys to walk away and forfeit the remainder of the money coming their way through this, because this is the most lucrative time. They'll forfeit their TV contracts. That'll turn into the owners will probably tear up the CBA, and then we'll be, kind of in a league in limbo from there. So I think the players are exerting the pressure that they have and the leverage that they have in a way to get further commitments to make real positive actual change. And I think in the end, I think everyone's going to come together and say, all right, what is it we need to do here to get this thing back moving? And I think ultimately that's what will happen.
Keith, all the best to you and your family. Stay safe, and best of luck covering this, and hopefully for you, the rest of the NBA playoffs.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You all stay safe, you and yours.
Keith Smith, who covers the NBA for Yahoo and RealGM.com, RealGM.com. Follow Keith on Twitter. It's real easy. Keith Smith NBA. Keith Smith NBA. It did strike me the other day when Doc Rivers said, and, he was saying it through tears, in which he said, why is it that we, meaning black people, love this country and the country doesn't love us back? And I felt very sad for him that, wow, I'm so sorry that you feel that way, because I don't feel that our country doesn't love Doc Rivers back. But it saddened me that he felt that way. I'm like, damn, God, that must suck. And I'm not trying to be flippant when I say that. I went, oh, damn, that's another level of when some of us say that, I don't fully understand or I can't relate. I've never felt for a day that my country didn't love me.
Nope.
And here's Doc Rivers at that stage of his life. Okay. And it's been a pretty good life. All right. And the son of a police officer. Okay. And yet he said that. And it certainly seemed to me as that 2 days ago when he said it, he meant it. And I went, oh, damn. I can't imagine feeling that way.
I don't ever recall, and maybe he has, I don't ever recall Chris Webber saying much about things. I just don't. Maybe he spoke about issues. I've just not seen them. Well, last night, Kenny Smith leaves the TNT broadcast in solidarity with the players, took his headset or took his mic off and left. And I happened to see that on Twitter. And then about an hour later, a friend of mine said, did you see what C. Webb said? I said, no, I didn't. I'd locked into Bruins Lightning. There's no basketball on. So, and in fact, I checked out to see what TNT was doing when I saw that it was canceled. And they quickly flipped the switch and had the longest yard on. So they didn't stay too long talking. Their guys wanted to go home too. Nothing there to talk about anymore. But, Chris Webber, I would just ask you to take 2 minutes and 8 seconds to listen to what C. Webb had to say last night. For a guy to me who I've not heard say a whole lot, said quite a bit. And I thought did a really good job of giving the young people credit. He didn't give himself and his generation any credit. He gave the next generation credit. And noticing what they are doing, not what he is doing, what they are doing. And it was a very powerful 128 seconds from Chris Webber. And Chris Webber is a kid that grew up pretty well. Chris Webber went to Detroit Country Day High School. Go look up what the tuition is. Now, he didn't pay to go there, but Chris didn't go to city schools in Detroit. Chris went to one of the elite college prep schools in the state and then went to the University of Michigan. At least from 13 on, Chris didn't have it as tough as others did and talked pretty eloquently last night about this, and I thought he did a very fine job.
Our poll question, do you support the NBA, WNBA, MLS, and Major League Baseball players' boycott of the games last night? We give you 3 answers. Yes, 100%. Yes, for about 48 hours. Then it's time to get back to work. And no. And right now, no has the most votes at around 45, 46%. So the yes-no number is about 54-46, 55-45, which is interesting in and of itself. You can go to millerandmoulton.com, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, and vote. Today was the day when, coming up, Ed Reed at the top of the hour. No, not the Football Hall of Famer, but the News Press and Naples Daily News reporter covering the Mackenzie Alexander story and its developments in the last 48 hours.
He's Ed Reed, not Ed Reed. Ed Reed played football. It's one
word. Ed Reed.
Yeah, Ed Reed.
Ed Reed.
Like Tom Brady.
He's Ed
Reed.
He'll join us at the top of the hour. Today was the day when next. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
You got to give Ed Reed a roam.
A poignant pause. Ed Reed.
The fear with him is he's got the fat gene. He doesn't work out for a week, and suddenly, damn, he put back 15 pounds back on, right?
Wow. Phil Steele just tweeted out during that interview, he tweeted out all the games that are Saturday. And I retweeted. I said, that's right, Phil. And we have UCA head football coach Nathan Brown on at 8:30. Watch the interview, at twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. He retweeted that within seconds. I mean, that is a retweet to a few million people right there.
Right.
See if it does anything at 8:30. I don't think it does a damn thing, but it was really nice.
Per month. That's right. A new car for just $49 per month. 2020 Kia Rio.
I thought in the middle of that interview it got better, David, for whatever reason. I don't know about you.
I thought the same thing with Sampson, too. It was really interesting. I thought the first 5 minutes of both, it sounded feedbacky, and then for whatever reason cleared up.
It's to the point where I'm going to look at after the show what it's going to cost me to get a real phone and get a voice over IP line in here so that we actually have a real phone plugged into the system instead of my cell phone. Basically buying a landline. Are you, I don't know what you're doing there. You're looking at me, but
no, I was listening to you and then reading a couple of comments in the Twitch
I didn't have
chat
that.
room. Plus I got text to answer. I mean, God, very busy.
Totally.
Very busy.
Totally. Why should I change? He's the one that sucks. What song do you like best? All of them. It's that movie still ranks. And Hobbs, that is such a good movie. Of all of the things, there was actually the girl I dated before my wife. If she did one good thing to me in my life, and she was a nice lady, but she turned me on to that movie because it is so good. Let me tell you why my job sucks.
Talk about what you know.
We're Fox Sports Radio, and when we talk the talk,
not a sports stuff.
I will say, of all the statements, the Washington Mystics had probably the most poignant statement.
What, with the one letter per player shirt?
No, with the 7 red blood marks on the back of their shirts.
Oh.
They basically took red marker and they had Jason Blake on the front of every shirt, and they had 7 what looked like.
I think it's Jacob.
I'm sorry. They had
Right.
7 bullet holes, if you will, in their backs. I mean, you look at the Twitter of the Mystics. That's, again, no one watches the WNBA, but you want to talk about a powerful statement. That was it.
So tiny, 100 million particles fit on the head of a pin. As we run around in our trucks and cars and play golf and go fishing and go to work and do the things we like to do, we are spreading the virus. The virus can only move with us. Over 65, diabetes, COPD, all these folks will be hurt severely by this virus. Wash your hands. Be careful. Don't be a spreader.
We've got our good friend. Don't be a spreader.
Don't be a spreader.
Huge selection and great pricing on Cortex flooring. Tim, tell us what's morning, knee brace.
Right now we have 90 colors of Cortex in stock.
Top of the morning to you.
Put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Cortex that you have. You also have other. I think John's trying to carry the Central Arkansas Austin P game Saturday.
It looks like stone, but it's Cortex. So
I think he just wants to be able to say we're carrying the first game of the year.
We also have
I think it's at Austin P. I think he was on the phone with him yesterday,
more stable core for
saying, "How do I carry this game?"
humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meister, are we still doing their coach at 910? 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco. Didn't he send that? Didn't he send a text out yesterday to the? Yeah.
Now back to Miller and Moulton. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Nine minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for listening. Waking Up with Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming at millerandmoulton.com. Broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. They're free, so we'd appreciate it if you'd sign up for them. You can subscribe to us on Twitch.tv. It'll cost you a few shekels, but you get plenty of perks with it.
But if you have an Amazon Prime account, it doesn't cost you a dime.
That's right. Boom. Done.
Amazon takes care of that. You get one subscription. Make it Miller and Moulton. That would help Miller and Moulton. And right now, we need all the help we can get.
Right now,
that's funny.
Well, it just, it beats crying.
True.
Right. You can either laugh or cry. I choose right now, at least on air, to laugh. Off air, cry. On air, laugh. Right now, it's time for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Today was a day when, brought to you this week by Norma Jeans by Page Field in Fort Myers. Hasn't been open since around 2012. We start today in 1921 when J.E. Clare of the Acme Packing Company of Green Bay was granted an NFL franchise. 1930, Yankees pitcher Monte Pearson no-hits the Indians. Joe D has 3 triples. There are teams that don't have 3 triples in a season.
Well, certainly in a week. All right. Yeah, the triple has all but disappeared.
Completely disappeared. Maybe the most exciting play in baseball.
Well, heck, speed has all but disappeared from the game. They don't encourage you to steal bases anymore. They don't encourage you to try to take the extra base.
Sean Casey commented because I think Barstool had put something out. It was 14 years to the day earlier this week of him getting thrown out or nearly getting thrown out at first base from left field in a Boston Tigers game. That amplifies the speed of today's game. Nothing like Sean Casey running the bases. 1955, the Guinness Book of World Records was first published. And on that same day, Sandy Koufax fans 14. In that game, the teams combined for a record 23 strikeouts, or what we like to call these days Tuesday.
Right.
1964, Mary Poppins premieres. 1970, Jimi Hendrix creates his last studio recording at the Electric Lady Studios in New York, an instrumental called Slow Blues. In 1978, Joe Morgan becomes the first to hit 200 home runs and have 500 stolen bases. And speaking of stolen bases, David, it was today in 1982 that Ricky Henderson steals his 119th base of the season to break Lou Brock's record. 1985, Mary Jo Fernandez, at 14 years and 8 days old, becomes the youngest player to win at the U.S. Tennis Open, winning 6-1, 6-4 in a first-round match. 1990, two things. Garth Brooks' second album, No Fences, is released, and the Brewers-Blue Jays game is delayed 35 minutes due to gnats. If you're born today, you share your birthday, all three of these people born on the same day, you'll know who two of them are, and unless you're from England or Australia, you won't know who the other one was. But I look this stuff up every day, and Donald Bradman is on this thing every day. He is the Beatles of cricket, apparently, David, and he was born today in 1908. All I know is that every day on this thing, Bradman did this, Bradman did that, and I don't understand cricket, so I don't know what the hell he did. All I know is he is the Gretzky, Ruth, DiMaggio of cricket. Frankly,
good for him.
There you go, Frank Lehigh, Notre Dame football coach, born today in 1908, and LJ was born today in 1908. Barbara Bach, one of the Bond girls, born today in 1947. Sergeant Slaughter, who I believe makes Southwest Florida home, or at least did for some time, born today in 1948. Movie fan Pee Wee Herman, born today in 1952, the same day as Roger Stone. I mean, just think about that.
That's Roger Stone's only 68.
Yes, Roger Stone and Paul Rubens are the exact same age.
Yeah, one is aged a little better than the other.
One dresses a little better than the other. Bernard Langer just won another tournament, probably.
No, he lost in a playoff for the record over the weekend. But that's funny though. How old is he now?
63.
Yes, and he lost in a playoff on the Champions Tour over the weekend. Right.
Downtown Julie Brown, MTV personality, is 57. Jim Tomei turns 50 today. And Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is 41. And that is, today was the day when, on this August the 27th.
Jim Tomei, one of the all-time good guys in sports. Top 10, you can combine all the sports. Jim Tomei, one of the all-time good guys. Just felt the need to say that.
Miller and Moulton. Ed Reed, he's a pretty good guy too. He
is.
Looking for a frameless shower door?
I love that we're going Ed Reed. I can't believe we're going to look at. Will you let me start it and say, "Hey, Ed, this is Mark from the Blade. The Blade lost 3-2 tonight to South Carolina." Gary doesn't want to talk to you.
Little inside joke.
By readers
Just got a text from somebody, okay, because you've got the Norma jeans.
Yeah.
All right, for the sponsorship. Just got a text from Greg, who made this sign, who said, I'm waiting for a Sea Dragon sponsorship. And that's true. We haven't gone to Funk Southwest Florida sports teams. The Flame.
Hang on.
The Flame. No. Right. Sea Dragons, the Flame, the Firecats. I mean, we could go defunct Southwest Florida sports teams.
It's all right. I made that just, what I'm going to do? I'm going to do by the Fort Myers Miracle, not named after a female body part.
Now, see, come on now.
Why? You are just no fun.
Well, they're not named after a female body part, but you just feel that the logo looks too much like one. But I know what you're saying. I got you. You know what I thought you could do as a joke? You could named after the Naples Cubs. The sponsorship brought to you by the Naples Cubs.
God, that's pretty funny.
Of the Florida State League. Da-da-da-da-da.
He has them all named the same damn thing. KS, KS1, and KS2. It's a little tough to figure out which one Ed Reed is when they're all named the same damn thing. There we go. Kick him right in the teeth, that bastard.
Nationwide. Your local Towboat U.S. companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information. Or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat U.S., you're never stuck on the water.
The sports station with balls and strikes. We also have strikes. WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. We are
Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health, C4MH.com.
Jim Tomey is my homie. He is awesome.
Let's see if Ed Reed still come. I don't even have his phone number. Oh my God!
What?
Hello,
Ed.
Yep.
Hey, Mark Miller from the Blades. We beat South Carolina 3-2 tonight. Do you need to talk to Jerry?
I'm having a flashback. I'd love to talk to Jerry.
How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing, my friend?
Very well.
I was listening this morning. You've had a heck of a show going.
Little bit
you
of
have
subject matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sports never fails to provide.
No, they don't.
No, not these days. My goodness.
Oh,
My neighbor asked me yesterday, "What are you writing about with everything not going on?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah, really.
I'm swamped."
We have been too. We were worried 5 months ago we weren't going to be. Felt we have nothing but things to talk about.
Yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't all been the good stuff. So.
Yep.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past the hour, our third and final hour of Miller and Moulton on this final Thursday of August. Thanks so much for being with us on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. We stream every day at millerandmoulton.com. If you miss any part of the show, that's where you can go to download our podcast. It's also where you can go to vote on our poll question of the day, which is, do you support the boycotts of yesterday by NBA, WNBA, MLS, and Major League Baseball players? We give you three choices. Two of them are yes. Yes, 100%. Yes, for about 48 hours. And no. Right now, it's about 54-46 yes. And then the yes obviously split between the two answers. Go to millerandmoulton.com or that Mark Miller or the David Moulton to vote. He has a much longer title these days than when we remember him. I mean, he's Ed Reed. Get this, folks. Deputy Regional Sports Director for USA Today, the News Press, and Naples Daily News. How big is the business card just to be able to handle all that?
Well, I just say, Deputy Florida Regional Editor. Make it easy, because you forget I also oversee Treasure Coast, Florida Today, Pensacola, and Tallahassee. So I actually oversee 6 newspapers. That would be very long on a business card.
How do you get to all those high school games?
Thank God for the internet.
That's a little inside joke for those of us that have worked in media a while in this market. But Ed, obviously the three of us go way back. I mean, David worked for you. You and I've worked together going with the Everblades. But this story with what's going on right now, and we have Ed on because Mackenzie Alexander left camp to come to Florida to search for his father. In doing so, he confronted the man last seen with his father, was in an altercation, and was arrested. Get us up to date on where we are now, Ed.
Well, I have breaking news for you if you want to do the song.
If I had one, I would. If I had.
Hold on, Ed.
The fire alarm in my house could go off again. That's been happening the last 3 days.
All right, Ed, remember, it's a low-budget show now. 3 tin cans and a string. Are you ready? Dun, 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 dun. Go.
We just got a report that they have found his father alive.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. So.
Wow.
So we're still getting information on this, but it just came across that they found over on the East Coast, they found him alive. So that is good news. So there's a good story.
Holy, that's a great story, Ed.
So yeah, so we'll be following that, but that's the initial report. So that's good news. But yeah, it's been a crazy 48 hours for the Alexander family. Absolutely.
He's Ed Reed, part of the USA Today family and the News Press and Naples Daily News. Follow Ed on Twitter, @Reed_NP, standing for News Press, @Reed_NP.
And I'm not the Baltimore Ravens, so everybody
Right.
who tweets at me that I, am the greatest, which thank you, but I didn't play in the NFL. But
Well,
I do appreciate all the direct messages.
Ed, I don't know if you heard us right before you came on, but Mark feels there's a way to distinguish the Hall of Famer Ed Reed and then the journalist Ed Reed. Ed Reed is one word, the football player. Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Ed Reed. It's all what we do is we have a Jim Rome pause in between Ed and Reed when it's you. That's how we decipher between the two of you.
I can live with that. I'm not as mad of a dresser. That's the other way to distinguish
Wow. That is true. All right. There's charges though against Alexander. I mean, here's the irony. Usually when you get charged with something like this, if the charges stick, and sometimes even if they don't, but if the charges stick, that usually leads to an automatic suspension of some kind eventually for Mackenzie Alexander. Are you able to gauge whether or not we think the charges are going to stick? Do they ultimately get dropped? Because if they get dropped, he can probably go back to the Bengals now that his father's been found and all's well that ends well. But if they don't get dropped, he's in trouble with the league.
Well, I listened to he had his first appearance yesterday, and thanks to technology, it's on Zoom. And his lawyer basically laid out, this is a gentleman who's never been in trouble. He has no priors. He's a good person in our society. He comes back, he gives, does camps, and it was extreme emotional distress that he was under. I mean, he loves his father dearly, and I would think any rational person would agree, you're all emotionally compromised at that point, and he's going to talk to the man who may have last seen his father alive, and he wants answers. And maybe he didn't keep his cool as well as he probably wanted to, but I think that's the case. And according to the report, the man got a bloody lip. So, thankfully he didn't hurt him terribly. So I think if you count all of that into it and just the human nature of the situation, I think it would go, people would understand what happened. It wasn't like he was driving around with a gun, and although he did say he may have had a weapon in his car to get the guy to come to the car with him, he never showed the weapon. He never brought it into the house. So I have a feeling there'll be some leniency here, and people are going to understand that he was under emotional distress, and that, although you never want to go into somebody's house and punch them, you can understand why he did it. I think it's a natural human reaction when a loved one is missing. I have a feeling and because of his past history of not having a past history, they'll maybe look the other way this time, or make it easier for him to get back.
Yeah, I guess I'm one of those old guys that doesn't think a punch necessarily means a battery charge every time as well, but I know that's not the world that we live in. If you're just joining us, talking with Ed Reed from the News Press, who broke news on our show that Mackenzie Alexander's father has been located and is alive. That is the best news that we could get on a day when the news has not been, all that fun to talk about. So it's nice to have a good story. Any more details you said on the other coast, was any details at all right now on where they found him, on his condition? Is there anything else you have to share? I know you're just getting this, Ed, so I hate to press you without knowing the answer, but I think our audience obviously wants as much as you can give them.
I'm looking right now. It looks like he was out in Okeechobee. Yeah, it's just per source close to the investigation is all we have right now, unfortunately. But we know he was in the Okeechobee area, so I'm assuming it was, somewhere in that neck of the woods. Yeah, that's all we have right now, is that according to sources close to the investigation. I wish I had more than that.
No, I understand.
Talking with Ed Reed, Deputy Regional Sports Director for USA Today, and works locally with the News Press and Naples Daily News. Hey, just the high school scene going forward, since you are in charge of about 5 or 6 different sports sections here. Is it different county by county, region by region, or are we all pretty much playing and going by the same, guidelines?
Oh, it's amazingly different. It's insane to me because you're going to have games September 4th with the private schools here in Lee and Collier County. The schools in the Treasure Coast aren't playing until the 11th. The schools in Brevard County aren't playing until the 18th. And there are some districts that aren't playing their first games until the week of September 25th. So you have a full month difference between when the first team is going to kick off and the last team is going to kick off. Some teams are only playing 6 games. Some are playing 8. It's unfortunately, and this is the thing that's insane, is that, as a state organization, the FSA kind of left it up to the individual school districts, and every school district is different. You get 67 of them in this state, and Miami is a heck of a lot different than Pensacola. And some teams haven't even started practicing yet. In Lee County and Collier County, public schools are going to start practicing on Monday. I believe in Brevard County, they're not going to start practicing until September 8th. So they're starting a full 2 weeks later than everybody else, which is why they're not playing games until the 18th. So even though we're getting back to it, if there's a bad outbreak, hopefully knock on wood not, in Collier County, because they go back in September, on Monday. If you're in Brevard County 2 weeks later, you haven't started yet, and you see stuff going bad in Collier, maybe they pull the plug. I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see how the whole state reacts.
Ed, put on your genie hat here, if you will, going forward, because David and I have talked about high school football going forward without COVID, wondering how financially in the concussion world, how we're going to play high school football. And we wondered that for a long time. Now with COVID and the fact that just like college football, just like pro football, but particularly college, the budgets are done because of college football for all the other sports. Well, high school is largely the same way. The gate helps pay for a lot of other sports. What do you think this does to high school athletics going forward, and just locally, because these folks? How detrimental will this be? Will this privatize high school athletics at all? What do you see going forward as the repercussions from what's happened this year?
Yeah, I think the next year is going to be tough. If they're going to lose a lot of money. The one thing is people have been talking about is streaming the games and doing more streaming services. So, you pay $5 or $10 and you can watch, Fort Myers High versus Dunbar on Friday, and you actually don't have to go to the game because people are more comfortable now with streaming options. Problem is right now, and for whoever cracked this, they'll be a millionaire. There are not a lot of services out there. I mean, you have Vimeo, you have YouTube channels, NFHS, the National Federation of High Schools. They provide support on their website, so you can broadcast games there. But like I said, like NFHS, all right, they'll come, they'll set up a camera in your school, you can video the game, but guess who gets the most of the money? NFHS. So if you're a local school, you're not generating revenue. So I know from talking to some athletic directors locally, that's one of the things that they really are thinking about is how can we do this and still generate gate? So you figure it's $5 to get in, $5 for parking. If you get a hot dog and a soda, that's another $5. So right there's $15 that somebody brought into the house. How do you offset that by live streaming or some things like, maybe more fundraising, more donations. If you can't have a way to charge people on YouTube or Vimeo to watch the games, you have a link to, donate voluntarily to a school, but I don't know about you guys, but, maybe the first time I'll throw them $5 or $10, but if I go back to watch 2, 3, 4 times, I'm probably not going to throw in if I can watch it for free. So these are definitely all the things that people are talking about, trying to use technology to their best advantage. But for the short term, with the budgets were already tight, you're paying officials more, which I agree that they deserve it. So there's more money coming out for that. You're going to have to pay for more buses because you have to separate the kids more. So there's a more of an expense there. I don't know how they don't come out of this in a big financial hole. And they're going to have to use everything in their playbook to try to offset it. And I think it's going to really hurt the other sports because, they was talking about, maybe, the soccer teams or the basketball teams don't get new uniforms next rotation. Baseball and softball don't get new uniforms. That's where that money goes. It's like, oh, well, it's only football. But like you said, it funds, that's the money that keeps the wheel turning. And, maybe they start talking, one thing that they were talking about is maybe next year there are no JV teams. You just have varsity. So that's less officials, less buses, less uniforms you have to worry about. So that's an option that nobody wants to do, but I've heard a couple times that maybe we cut back next year and only have varsity teams for a year. So those are all the things that I've kind of heard that are on the table.
Well, Ed, at this point, I'll be curious to see whether or not they let local media in the stadiums just to cover the games, to be honest with you. Ed, all the best to you and the family. Stay safe amongst your travels, and thanks for the time, and thanks for being so generous as to give us the breaking news.
Hey, anytime for my favorite Southwest Florida sports commentators.
Wow.
That's Ed Reed.
Reed, right.
Again,
Pause.
Ed Reed.
Right.
Deputy
Pause
Regional Sports Director for the USA Today. A much better title than he had the last time we talked to him. My guess is he's not making any more money.
No, more responsibility, bigger title, no money. Right.
Thanks, Ed. Be well. Be safe.
You too, gentlemen.
You can follow Ed on Twitter at @EdReed_NP. And we pause in case you missed it because, well, there's the football player, Ed Reed, like Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Ed Reed. And then there's Ed Reed. That's our guy. And he let us know.
He's a good guy.
He's a really good guy.
Really good. And David says that, and I'm not mistaken. Did he fire you?
He let me know that there was no more money in the budget for me, yes.
So, technically, he didn't want to, because that's why it's not really fair to say that Ed fired you.
Right, but he did.
Ed was forced to fire you.
Yeah, well, he was the head of the department. Right. He knew that there was no money. And so he kind of let me know a few months in advance. He goes, I have a feeling the money's going to run out. And I said, well, that's okay. I don't know if I have anything more interesting to say. So, this could work out perfectly here. So...
But David just admitted he's a good guy, and this guy fired David. That's why I asked that, because of all the people that fired me, there's not too many of them I say are good guys.
See, it's funny. I've got about 3 guys who have fired me that I still like.
Larry a couple an a-hole.
What?
Larry Kish, that's the first one. He's an a-hole. Second one. The first one was Greg Lutz. I wouldn't pee on him if he were on fire.
Okay.
I won't say anything bad about the Everblades because they're in my market. And the last person that fired me.
All right. Okay.
The first person that fired me.
All right. Okay. Our poll question today: do you support the boycotts yesterday by NBA, WNBA, Major League Baseball, and MLS players? And I guess for some of you may not be aware that it was that many athletes in sport that took part in this. But there were the 3 NBA playoff games that didn't take place. There were 3 WNBA games that didn't take place. There were 3 Major League Baseball games that didn't take place because of the protests. And there were a few players who just let their managers know, I'm not playing today. I think Matt Kemp was one of them that just said, yeah, I'm not playing today. And there were 5 MLS matches that didn't take place. And Naomi Osaka, who's one of the top players on the women's tour, and tennis just started back up like last week. The U.S. Open's in a little more than a week, and then tennis just started back up here after a 5-month layoff, and she's through to the semifinals of her tournament, and she announced, yeah, I'm not going to play. And that match was supposed to take place today. So the tournament's going to give her a day, and they're hoping she'll show up and play her semifinal match on Friday. But that's all that took place in terms of protests, or as David Sampson said, Mark, last hour on our show, he just said, you know what? Protest is not the right word. Strike is the right word. He said
in basketball. It's tough to say it in the others because it was a handful of games.
And so we ask you, do you support the boycotts / strike yesterday? And right now the vote is flat 50-50. Yes, 100%. Yes, for 48 hours. You add up those 2 votes, you're at 50%. No, 50%. There you have it.
David, a little commentary on Ed Reed talking about no uniforms, no JV. And I think I'm glad the way he did that. And it's why I asked Ed and why you followed up, because he's in tune with this and he's hearing things. And I think these are relevant to what's going on. But when he brought up all the jerseys, the Williamson Brothers Marine Talk and text line gave us this dandy. 30 years ago at Riverdale, we didn't have matching uniforms. Forget new.
I
think all of us that are 50 and older can go, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yep.
Got hand-me-down. Some were a little more worn than others.
Right. I think we all resemble that statement, sir. I think that is very, very accurate.
Ed Reed did, however, let us know that Mackenzie Alexander's father has been found and he is alive. All right. And that is why we had Ed on originally. Mackenzie Alexander, the pride of Immokalee High School, currently a Cincinnati Bengal, left training camp on Tuesday, flew back home when searching for his dad. His dad had gone picking berries with a gentleman. He confronted that gentleman, got into a fight with that gentleman, got arrested for getting into a fight with that gentleman. But fortunately, over 48 hours later, his dad found alive. Thank goodness.
That is just great news on what has been a very different sports day, and nice to get some excellent news towards the end of our show. We have more excellent news on our show, in my opinion, because we are talking to a college football coach next, and he's going to play football
Saturday.
On Saturday.
That's
Nathan
right.
Brown, the head coach at Central Arkansas, playing the first college football game of the year against Austin Peay. Wow.
Lot to talk to him about. COVID, playing football through it, and
how to prepare for the Bison.
And dealing with all the social justice / change in our country, which I'm sure has been a topic in his locker room. We'll talk to Nathan Brown, the head coach of Central Arkansas, coming up in a matter of moments. The good, the bad, and the ugly is about 30 minutes away. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
We do this all for you. You are correct. So sit back and
I just forget the funniest text of my life from a friend of mine in a group text who asked, and I'm not joking, asked out loud, there isn't any chance the BMW championship gets delayed, is there?
That funny.
And he was, but what's funny is he was serious. I'm going to go fill my coffee. I'll be right back.
And to the gentleman who referenced ratings, no, actually ratings are good. The problem is sponsorship. With COVID, a lot of businesses struggling, and the first thing that they cut back on is sponsorship. So, that's why we are having some fun with these segments and who they're brought to you by, because we have a lot of stuff on the show that's sponsorable, and well, it's just not sponsored, and that hurts us. Obviously, station's not making money, we're not making money, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we're bringing it up in a certain way and trying to have fun with it. Knee brace, yeah, sure. I'll give Mark first crack at you because I do a few. I do more interviews than he does, but
my shower door so big and so fast. But the answer is we didn't. What we did is we took our family business, we hired great talent, trained our staff, and developed a product. Now, after 17 years, my shower door has 8 frameless shower door showrooms with our newest in Cape Coral.
So No is gaining steam.
Trust and research, and you want to see more, go to myshowerdoor.com.
I'm a busy person. Catch the show anytime. Check out millerandmoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western bacon cheeseburger. It's just like the Western bacon cheeseburger.
Because somebody said it's now up to 51%. No.
Tangy barbecue sauce, but we added.
No, I see 50%.
Jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western.
Well, probably knee brace the way you're doing it right now.
Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the
Wait till Mark gets back from his coffee.
in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to breakfast lovers. with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. Then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon.
Mark Niebrace wants to know what you do as podcast.
You can get it all wrapped up in a burrito. The Southwest omelet, biscuit, and burrito are back. Only at Hardee's.
What's that?
Feed your happy. Limited time only at
The gentleman behind Niebrace Radio wants to know if you would do his podcast.
Training to the next level. Looking to improve your speed, posture, endurance, conditioning, and mental training for tennis or any sport?
When? How long do you need me? Be nice.
But Niebrace, I would say at the Mark Miller, right?
Well, Mark
No,
at
that
Miller,
Mark Miller.
Mark at millerandmoulton.com is my email address. David's would be very similar.
Yeah, I just don't check it.
But
although I have twice recently.
It's good.
Actually, in the last 3 weeks, I'd say I've checked it twice.
Johnny Mac is listening to the show on Twitch or
Yeah.
YouTube, and he's on part of this text. And I read that to him. He says, Moulton's laughed when you informed him of Zero's question. I'll wait until we start coming on before I call him. I hate keeping coaches hanging, so just do the cars.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
"26 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for listening, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. If you've missed any part of the show, we had David Sampson at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. We had Keith Smith, who covers the NBA, an hour ago. We just had Ed Reed, who's part of the USA Today family, and he gave us the breaking news that Mackenzie Alexander's father, who's been missing since late Monday night, has been found alive. And so thank goodness for that. And now we're kind enough to welcome Nathan Brown. And he is coaching Saturday, Central Arkansas against Austin Peay in the first college football game of the year. Follow Coach Brown at Nathan Brown UCA. Coach, thanks for making time for us. How are you?
Doing well, guys. I appreciate you guys having us. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you guys have been tracking Hurricane Laura, but I know you guys have to worry about that a little more where y'all are at. But we're getting our first, in my lifetime at least, tropical storm warnings in Arkansas. That's how serious this storm is coming up here.
Whew, that's no fun. We've been through these before, so, stay safe. I think that's kind of been the theme for here. It seems like we say stay safe more here in the last months than we have in the last 20 years. I don't know if that's a bad thing, Coach, but between the storm, between what's happening in the world, between COVID, how the hell do you coach football? I mean, I'm serious right now with everything going on. How do you start practice? How often do you just have to talk for 10 minutes before we say, okay, guys, let's go do our drills?
Yeah, well, I think you make a good point there. I mean, look, if you're not having an open dialogue, an open conversation, I'm a big relationship coach. So if I'm not spending time listening to my players and my staff and their feelings and that's feelings from, like you mentioned, just, the social situation we're dealing with in this country right now. Also to just the fear of the unknown of the COVID-19 virus. You're right. I mean, football kind of takes a back seat to those issues because that's life. That's what that's going to affect these young men and my life for years in advance. And football is just a game we play to get a scholarship, pay for my school, and obviously it's mine and my coach's livelihood. But again, it's a fine line there. And look, we've had to really put sports and football into perspective over the last 6 months, and I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do know that I've been open and honest with our kids. I've given them an opportunity to voice their concerns, voice their experiences, and use this platform that they have as a college student athlete that's 18 to 22 years old. Use it to their advantage, and if they use it for good, then albeit, then they're going to change our community here in Conway, Arkansas, our state of Arkansas, and hopefully the country in the near future.
Well, Coach, what has a young man said to you in these last 5 months that has genuinely changed you? That you went, oh, wow. And you made you think about something or feel something that maybe you didn't think or feel about before?
Well, I think kids, you look at, let's go. We're talking about college football. You look at Division I college football athletes, and just the fear of the unknown was a wake up call. These guys seem invincible. We're recruiting the best athletes in the country, and you look across the board at just people put athletes on a pedestal, and college football has become a multi-billion-dollar industry with unbelievable athletes being the face of it. And I think there was genuine fear about this virus that was going around and is still going around, that really showed that, hey, they're human and they do have feelings and they do care about their families and loved ones and friends that it could affect more than them. They're in the best condition and shape of their life. So luckily, the way this virus hits, they're probably in okay shape if they get it, but who knows if their loved ones are the same way. So that was a wake-up call. And also through this social stuff, just some of the experiences that maybe my minority athletes just held in, and so as being a white male, I can't relate to some of their experiences, but I can listen. And I can have an open ear and an honest eye and just give them an opportunity to voice their concerns and opinions, and then try to do something about it to fix it, And so, it's just been a lot of things piling on in the last 5 or 6 months. And I think when we come out of this, I think we're going to be a better country and a better community for it.
He's Nathan Brown. He's head coach of the Bears of Central Arkansas. You can follow him on Twitter at Nathan Brown UCA, Nathan Brown UCA. They are kicking off the college football season Saturday night at home on ESPN, weather permitting, against Austin Peay.
Coach, we do this, and I don't just mean you. I think we've all done this. Our parents did it, that, your generation's softer than mine. Your generation's softer than mine. Well, I listened to Chris Webber last night, and I didn't see it live, but someone texted me what he said, and I don't know if you caught it, but he really praised the young people. And as David said, what have you heard? But what is it that they're asking maybe that's different to you of trying to get change? Because I do think that we are seeing – we all know we're seeing some unprecedented times, and it is really these kids that you coach, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are doing the change. What do you think is maybe the biggest misnomer that all of us old white guys don't realize of what these young kids are actually accomplishing?
Yeah, I think they've sat back, and I think even if you look at their generation of parents, even maybe, you're dealing with a generation of young men and women that use their platform and use their energy and use their experiences, and they tell you about it. And I think what we are experiencing as a society right now, it is really flipping it upside down. And what a lot of people, maybe in the past and in recent years, and maybe even over the last 40 or 50 years, since integration and all the 60s happened and all those things, we've kind of probably as a society swept a lot of issues under the rug. And what is being now exposed is we're flipping that rug upside down. This young generation of men and women across the country, and not just student athletes, but just the general population as a whole, they're flipping it upside down, and we're talking about it, and we're doing some extreme things on both sides to get the message known. But I think to a certain extent, that's what's going to make it serious is the extreme. And hey, this is for real, and we want change. And if you're not a part of it, and you don't want to listen and be a part of the solution, then you're a problem. So that's been my stance. Is again, like you said, I don't know the experience that some of our minority men and women have been through. But again, and I deal with 120 student athletes every day, and a large number of my student athletes are African American, and they come from all parts, from Florida to California to all parts in between, and they come from different backgrounds and home lives and socioeconomic statuses. So my job is to sit there and develop a culture and an environment that is conducive to growth and conducive to a family atmosphere, and hopefully that's what we're able to accomplish here at Central Arkansas.
How different has it been getting a team ready to play a season with COVID? I think we're familiar with, it's been talked about a lot at the NFL level, only 10, no preseason games, only 10 padded practices, etc. Well, college football, there's never any preseason games. And now with COVID, how different has it been for you to get to this point 48 hours before your season opener?
Yeah, I've had several radio interviews and talked to different people. Talked to the ESPN crew yesterday that's showing the game, and the best illustration I can give, and probably everybody would say this, has been dealing with COVID, especially in athletics. It's been a roller coaster ride. I mean, there's days of highs, there's days of lows. There's you can't help but look at social media and the things going on across the country as far as whether it's universities canceling or a school deciding to push their program back to the spring to play football or fall sports. So it's just been a roller coaster ride. So I think that the biggest key through all this is keeping your team focused on Central Arkansas. What do we have in front of us? How is our community handling this virus? What are our mitigation and protocols here at Central Arkansas? How are we handling it? Are we adhering to the NCAA guidelines, which we have been since June 15th when they reported for summer conditioning? We are blessed to have Conway Regional Medical Center here in town who we're co-partnering with that give us the ability financially to test our young men on a weekly basis. And then obviously the screen checks and the mitigation protocols and all the things that we've done have really been difficult because it's something that you didn't sign up for. And I talk to our players about that all the time. I signed up to be a football coach, and I've turned into knowing this virus inside and out more than I ever wanted to know, just because I've had to educate myself on it and how to give us an opportunity to play football. And I think our kids have bought into that. And again, the proof is in the pudding, and we're 48 hours away from playing football.
Austin P on Saturday, UAB the following Thursday, and you've added a couple of games. When you have been one of them, obviously North Dakota State. And as I was looking up the stuff for your team, you've got a young man on your team that we're going to hear his name Friday or Saturday come draft day, and Robert Rochelle. This North Dakota State game has largely been presented from the Bison standpoint as a showcase for their quarterback. First off, why did you take the game? And secondly, if it's a showcase for their quarterback, is it a showcase for your corner if he happens to grab a couple of those quarterbacks' balls?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, Robert Rochelle is a name to keep an eye on. If to the general NFL fans out there, he's a guy you will hear his name called early in the NFL draft, the 2021 NFL draft. That would be just a phenomenal athlete. He's going to be a long corner, plays the position of corner. He's a true lockdown corner for us. Again, a kid we recruited out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Was a raw, talented athlete we knew could develop into a great football player, and he's done that. And he's a 6'2" kid, runs. He's a sub 4.4 40 guy, vertical jumps over 40 inches. I mean, he's gonna go off the charts if and when he gets an invite to the combine next year. But yeah, he's got a lot of buzz around him. I'll tell you, he's got an opportunity this year with several marquee matchups that he may not have had the opportunity to have in our original schedule. But now you get an opportunity to play 3 FBS opponents, a big-time opponent in Austin P, who have big-time receivers that he has a chance to go up against, as well as a team like North Dakota State, who we know oozes with NFL talent every year, and obviously the cream of the crop at the FCS level. So just an unbelievable showcase opportunity and season for him. And really, we've got 2 or 3 other guys as well that have aspirations to have a shot at getting an NFL cancer drafted as well.
Central Arkansas, one of the top 10 teams in the country last year in FCS. They won 9 games in the regular season. Coach, are you more experienced or less experienced this year kicking off against Austin P?
Well, we should be more experienced. And when I say that, we're more experienced in some key areas. Our quarterback's back, Braylon Smith. He threw for 3,700 yards last year, 32 touchdowns. He's a preseason All-American, preseason first-team All-Conference in the Southland Conference. He is our bell cow on offense. Like Robert is on defense, that's what Braylon is on offense. I feel like we've got 2 receivers that can play anywhere in the country, and LaJuan Winningham, who's a preseason All-American as well, and Tyler Hudson, who was the freshman of the year last year in the Southland Conference, had 12 touchdowns at receiver as a true freshman. So I feel like there's some experience. We got an experienced center back. That's important right there in the middle of your offense. in our front seven. You know, we didn't lose a player on our front seven from last year's team of a pretty good defense. So you look at that and just you know, another year in our coaching system. You know, we're only in year 3 as a coaching staff, and Coach Williams is in his second year as our defensive coordinator. So I think you'll see great improvement. I think you'll see more confidence in our young men, and I think we've got plenty of experience to have a quick start on Saturday.
Coach, stay safe, not just with everything that's going on, but also with the storm that is going to come through your neighborhood here in the next 24 hours. Stay safe, be well. Best of luck Saturday night, your opener against Austin Peay, and hopefully we can talk again.
Yeah, guys. Well, I appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Nathan Brown is the head coach of the Bears of Central Arkansas, FCS, but as I mentioned, they won 9 games in the regular season last year, played Hawaii tough last year, off the mainland in a loss, and they have scheduled North Dakota State here in October, early October.
That's why when I was, I knew that going into the interview, and the Bison have a quarterback that's going to get taken in the top 15 in the draft. By all accounts, this is going to be a first-round quarterback, may even be a top 10 pick. But the kid that Coach was talking about there, this Robert Rochelle, 4.3 40. This is from draftscout.com. He is a projected second-day pick as of right now, heading into the season. So showcase your quarterback, but how often are they going to throw at Robert Rochelle in that game? And if they do, how much could it help this guy's credentials heading into draft day?
But with everything that was going on, we wanted to wet your whistle a little bit. There is one college football game scheduled for Saturday, week 0. It is Central Arkansas hosting Austin Peay. I will say, with the storm, Laura, who's still a hurricane and will be a tropical storm by the time it gets through Central Arkansas, I hope Austin Peay gets there okay, in all honesty, because I think the storm's coming through tomorrow, which is usually travel day. So, I mean, Mark, it would be...
Unfortunately, it's already down to a 1, or it's a 2, going to be a 1 shortly. The eye is shrunk in half in the first 30 minutes of hitting landfall. I've just kind of had it on in the background. All of the news, while I think it's going to be really bad on the shore, it looks as if going forward inland, it shouldn't be terrible. You just have to be hopeful.
But could anything be more 2020, as he said, with everything that we're dealing with in society and COVID and all that? And here we are in Central Arkansas, and we have a tropical storm watch right before they're getting ready to play their first game of the year. And it's on the 4-letter network Saturday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. All right. And I know many of you are jonesing. It's 14 days from today, Mark, you get the Chiefs and the Texans, but it's 2 nights from tonight that you get Central Arkansas and Austin Peay. We may even carry that game, quite frankly, on our station.
I know.
I mean, that's how jonesing some people are to just have football.
Can I just give you some more? Do you want a little bit more on it? Central Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite.
Oh, now you're just getting dirty.
We got to lift this. It's been a very intense, a very different show than we do, but it's what's going on today, and I'm proud of the show we did. We had some great interviews, but let's get down to business. Central Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite against Austin Peay.
At home, and they won at Austin Peay last year, ladies and gentlemen, week 2. So I'm laying the 3.5. I'm telling you right now.
As am I. As am I.
So we'll see. We'll see if Miller and Moulton are mush right at the start of the season, or we're starting 1-0. Will we take 1-0 into September?
I'll tell you what. Not only do we have the good, the bad, and the ugly still coming up, but since the show's gotten a little lighter towards the end, if you're okay with it, David, a major announcement on the other side.
Wait, what?
A major announcement. I wanted to do it earlier this morning. He said, "Can it wait till tomorrow?" It could, but now that I feel that the air is not as thick and that we're a little lighter, that we feel a little better after talking about lines, can I make a major announcement, or do I have to wait till tomorrow?
Am I aware of this at all?
You approved it on a text yesterday.
I did. This is one of those times, when my wife was talking to me but not making eye contact.
There were 2 questions. You answered them both.
Did it? Wow. Okay.
And neither of them were thanks for listening.
Miller and Moulton. If you want to get back to serious, go to millerandmoulton.com and answer our poll question, which is, do you support the professional athletes who had their boycott yesterday? And some of them may have their boycott today as well. So now we're being told the Austin Peay Central Arkansas game is being played in Montgomery, Alabama.
I'll check during the break. That's what we usually do. We try to get a second source. The good, the bad, and the ugly, and whether or not Miller and Moulton fan is right. That's what we'll find out. Plus, there may be or there may not be a major announcement whether or not David approves during the break. That is all still ahead in the closing moments of this very good Thursday show. We're thanking you so much for listening. Miller and Moulton, Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, and you are looking live on twitch.tv.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
People were talking about Dallas pulling off the upset. Doc Rivers has got a problem here. Now, it's never as big a problem as the Lakers, but the Clippers might be a better all-around team than the Lakers, and you can't get everybody on the same page. You know, playoff P, Paul George, small P, hasn't done anything here.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m.
Montgomery,
West
yes.
Florida's Fox Sports
Thank you,
Radio
fan.
and FoxSportsFM.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
That's interesting.
The 13269.
In and of itself.
It was the CFB kickoff is how it was billed, because these teams are pretty big teams.
For over 20 years, the Good Feet store has been helping people with foot pain get back to doing what they love without their feet getting in the way. Call 552-FEET or visit us at the Good Feet store in Naples or our newest location in Fort Myers.
They were supposed to play North Dakota State in the playoffs last year. They got upset at home by Illinois State in the second round. And then Illinois State nearly won in Fargo last year. I think 9-3 was the score.
$49 per month. 2020 Kia Rio, just $13,990. Yes, $13,990. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Galliana Kia has lenders to get almost anyone approved. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you're upside down. Why? Why buy an overpriced used car when you can buy a
Well, the owner of the Magic, Betsy DeVos, is the Secretary of Education.
Yeah.
Right. No, but they Heckle Hyde saying owner is the brother of someone in the Trump cabinet. No, she's actually.
Well, the DeVos family, they all own it. I mean, it's the Amway people.
Right.
From Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Swinging a foul ball. To catch a foul ball. Somebody made a good catch down there. It's on everything.
Well, also, and once again, I know nobody cares, but trying to think, is she the majority owner? But of the Atlanta Dream WNBA team, I mean, she's got a stake in it anyway, is one of the two senators from Georgia. There's a male senator and a female senator, and the woman is one of the owners of the Atlanta Dream, and that team's been as political as any team in the league.
Yeah, they want her removed as owner, right?
Correct. Which
because she challenged the league's relationship with China.
Well, yeah, and she's an all lives matter person. She's not a big fan of Black Lives Matter.
But she was, what I read, she just said, "Hey, I don't agree with some of the founding principles." She didn't,
right.
And that's now look at that's the one. Like she said that and she got crucified when Marcellus Wiley went on a national show and said, "Hey, there's some Black Lives Matters. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this."
Right.
That disappeared. Because you and I have had this conversation, and I know we're two white guys, but at the end of the day, there are a couple of things in their mission statement, if you will, that don't sit well with people.
No.
And everything improves once your mood improves.
Nope.
I can still say Black Lives Matter and say I don't agree with a couple of the main things on their cause. I don't think that I'm out of bounds for speaking that. And if I am, then I'm wrong about something else. But I mean, it's only 8:49. I've got plenty of time to screw it up even more by noon.
Wait, we're going till noon? What?
By the way, it was the fantasy thing, David. That was the breaking news.
I know that. I was
just making sure you knew. You just gave me
fun.
Hey,
having fun. We're doing a show. That's all.
I know. Just making sure you know.
Oh,
before
yeah.
I do it.
Right. Okay. We're in next week. I don't know if I'm in, but we're in. Absolutely.
The prescription is the Pool Doctor for award-winning pool service, repairs, and unheard of $39 diagnostic calls. That's mypooldoctor.com or 239.
TVG is a great thing, Johnny Mac.
State certified CPC 057088.
From the best headlines,
The best.
to the worst,
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
This is a pretty cool story here. For the good, and unfortunately, I don't have a city. So for the good, just listen. It's Taylor Ellis. Usually there's a city, and then I did just realize that there's no city because it was Taylor Ellis was born with glaucoma and has very little vision. She went in for a 20-week scan, and she was unable to see her baby. She's pregnant. She left in tears. When the doctors found out she was upset, they conducted a special ultrasound and made a 3D printout of her unborn daughter's face. 26-year-old Taylor and her husband, Jeremy, who's also visually impaired, received the special scan in the post a week later. They were able to feel the baby's face. As a result, they say a dream come true. Baby Roselle is now 10 weeks old, and the mom of three, Taylor, said the 3D printing technology has been life-changing. I just thought that was a pretty cool story. For the bad, we go to the gritty streets of Fort Myers, where FWC is investigating a dead alligator without a head.
Whoa.
They're protected animals. It looks as if someone killed the gator, wanted a head for a trophy, and threw the rest into a canal. My guess is this won't end well for the alligator poacher. Because, well, unless you're the only one that's ever going to see it, someone's going to talk. Not to mention the fact that doesn't this look like a crime in which someone will then post an Instagram picture of the alligator's head at
Absolutely.
some point in the next 4 days?
Look what I have. Yep.
And for the ugly, a story that should make David shiver just a little bit. We go across the pond where a British man had an unwelcome late-night surprise when he woke up to find a 4-foot snake slithering around in his bedroom.
Oh, man.
I opened my eyes and it was pitch dark, so I picked up my phone and scanned the room with the torch, and as I was putting the torch down, I saw the snake climbing up the table right next to my bed.
Oh, man.
I dived across the room and switched the light on, and the snake was there, half on the floor and half on the table in my bed. Of course, he called the police.
Wait, you called the police on a snake? I don't think you're going to get the answer you're looking for. That's
well,
like my
RSPCA Inspector David Holgate arrived to collect the snake. He said the serpent was non-venomous and likely a pet that escaped or was abandoned.
Man, it's like when my sister-in-law, they hadn't moved to Florida yet. All right, and it was the sun was setting, and there were sharks right there, not too far from shore. And she called and said, "Hey, you got to come and take care of the sharks." And the guy on the other end of the phone said, "Ma'am, it's their water."
And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on this August 27th, 2020.
Ooh, but you're right.
Today, we gonna have anything?
Well, I think we'll have most all of Major League Baseball.
Think we have hockey?
I do think we have hockey.
I do as well.
I think we'll have another. I do think we'll have another 7 seconds of moment of reflection, though, before the games. I do.
The teams that are playing, one is the Flyers Islanders, who played early yesterday before anything was done, and the other one's Vegas and Vancouver, who didn't play yesterday. So I would agree with that.
I do not expect there to be any NBA or WNBA games today, though, because quite frankly, I think every team is going to want to sit a game out and make their statement. And they don't do back-to-backs in the NBA playoffs. So these teams scheduled to play today do not want to be left out. But I think we'll have basketball by Friday.
They meet at 11. Stay tuned for the day to find out what happens with the players meeting at 11 a.m. this morning. So in Act 2, I have taken on a different persona. I have been a kinder, gentler Mark Miller.
Yes.
Embracing the listener. Embracing the texter. Embracing the emailer.
Yes.
And I took it to a new level yesterday when I asked David a question via text. Wednesday night is my fantasy football draft with my friends. One of our rules has always been you have to be here live. Well, it's 2020 and it's COVID and there's things going on. So we're allowing some people, and I'm going to use the same technology I use for the show to get a couple, 3 people who can't make it to the draft. And I suggested to David, should I put our draft on Twitch?
Yeah.
And should I allow our listeners to help draft my team?
Ooh.
So Wednesday at around 6 p.m., we're going to go live on Twitch, and you're going to see the debacle that is the bomb shelter draft.
Is that what we call it? The bomb
That's the name of
shelter
the
draft?
league. My buddy's house, the back porch, was called the bomb shelter. He has moved, and we're now calling it the bunker because it's much bigger, but it's not ready. It includes a replica of the 12th at Augusta in his backyard.
Ooh.
That will not be ready for this. That's how we ended up with Mark Melanson on the show. So the draft is going to be on my turf. And Johnny Mack is like, please don't do it. What do you mean, please don't do it?
Why? We get to embarrass ourselves for 3 hours a day. We think others should be embarrassed as well. Right. Mark wants a sponsor.
I want a sponsor. If not, I have to give it to one of the guys in the league's company. And I don't want to do that unless he's going to give me some. I don't want to have to trade it out.
Oh, you sound like a couple of bosses we've worked for over the years. I don't want to have to trade it out. Well,
1 minute.
Desperate times, Mark. Desperate times. Our poll question at millerandmoulton.com. Do you support the boycotts yesterday by the NBA, WNBA, MLB, and MLS? It is a 50-50 vote. The yes is divvied up amongst 2 answers. Yes, 100%. And yes, I support them, but for about 48 hours. Then it's time to get back to playing. That split is a 2-to-1 split. So that 50% is divvied up 2-to-1. And then 50% no, I don't support the athletes in their boycott.
That Mark Miller for sponsorship opportunities for.
Although, if you could actually contact me, the David Moulton, and I come up with the sponsor, that would really frost him.
Not at all. I'd like David to moderate this draft. Miller and Moulton. Twitch draft in your future on twitch.tv. I get fired from a show that I own. Johnny, I mean, I own the show. I can't get fired. I mean, David can't fire me. We're partners.
Although, Johnny, it is an interesting question just in theory. Have you ever been fired by a friend? I'm trying to think.
No. I mean, I guess I considered Brush a friend, but he was the boss.
Every day to meet that goal. Kobe is who we are, and cooling is what we do. But we also know we're nothing without you. Thank you, Southwest Florida, for almost.
But in theory, like, is a friend getting fired by a friend is somebody that you then, at a later point in time, you're out socializing with, playing golf with, having a beer with, that sort of deal. So I don't know that the answer's ever been yes for me. I'll have to think about that.
1949, serving local Southwest Florida families for almost.
But Pancho, thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.